All set? Okay. All right, North Smithfield Town Council meeting, February. Hello. All right. North Smithfield Town Council meeting, February 5th, 2024. Madam Clerk, can you start us with the prayer and the pledge, please?
Thank you for bringing us together today in a spirit of generosity. May we honor one another by keeping an open mind. May we voice our truth and listen with an open heart. May we discern your will to unite in fruitful outcome. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Just what we need. There's a broken mic.
Here.
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 Testing, no. Testing. Yeah, I tried that. It does, right up the top. Testing. Yep. Aren't you glad?
It's not working. None of them.
Is there a master plug somewhere? Or?
Should we unplug?
Yeah, I think
Try
it's
it.
not. There's something usually.
Yeah, I just did it.
I feel like it's my house. No.
It's up there. Good thought, though.
Is there an IT person in the house? Are you an IT person?
No,
Oh,
he
okay.
is. Yes.
I don't know.
I took 4 pins out.
Yeah.
And didn't take them. No, I didn't.
You didn't notice?
Do you want to just look?
Yeah. Tammy, is it all right we start, or is it doesn't, it won't? Because it won't record, right? It is? All right. Oh, we gotta do open forum first. All right, let's move to open forum, non-agenda items only pursuant to 4246-6D, maximum 3 minutes per person. Did anyone sign up for open forum?
Oh, look at that. Tammy. Yeah.
Joanne, do you have a Thank you.
Is this on? Is this on?
It was.
It is.
Try it, do this, hit it right here.
Hello?
Yep.
Yeah, okay. Mike Clifford, 489 Black Plain Road. I just wanted to address the police station building for a few moments. I congratulate you on having the brickwork restored, and I'm glad that it wasn't a major job. And I look forward to the new roof being placed on there, but I think I've been watching the meetings on YouTube, and when the last meeting you had with the gentleman from Tecton, he and the chief both made comments many times, and I don't know if it sunk in or not, but I thought I was in total agreement with both those comments, and I thought that's what you've got to do. And they both made the comment that really, before you go along with any further repairs, you have to make a decision. Is it going to be a repair, and then we're going to build new, or is it going to be a remodel, and we're not building new? Because as you make these decisions, even simple things like the doorways, if you replace one door, what's the design for the whole building going to be? So you might be spending money on new upgrades that aren't going to be compatible with what the total design is. So I think you really need to have a meeting to just discuss that and beat that out and decide what you're going to do. I don't really see a lot of options there because I think the voters turned that down the way they did because of many reasons, and everybody had a different reason. Some it was the price tag, some it was the location, some it was the fact that we already voted to renovate it, and we didn't honor it. So I think, that I'd like to see that committee set up and start taking over some of the responsibility, because there are things that they could do now, even though, while you're deliberating as to what you want to do. I think there's a need to have that committee review the 2014 bond and see where the money went and what it went on, and review the contracts for this building and see if everything that was in the contract was actually done, or were those things negotiated away when we ran into a problem with the contractor and had to pay him $300,000 more than we were supposed to. And I look at that ceiling and I think, and now I'm starting to say, is there a new roof on this or not? Because those tiles were changed once already. And now the water spots are back again. I don't know if it's in the same position or a different one, but my question is, do we have a new roof? So we need to do an assessment of what was done to this building that was supposed to be done originally in the bid specs that wasn't done. So you can plan on, having the money to do those repairs that were never completed, if that's the case. Maybe everything was done. Maybe they did buy all the equipment they're supposed to buy. But I think that needs to be done. And I think somebody also needs to do what's been said a million times. You weren't prepared with the numbers last time, and we're not off to a fast start here. The next election is 10 months away. But I'd like to know, we talked about polling all the departments and having the departments tell the council president or the administrator or the town planner, who's ever going to be in charge of overseeing this, to what needs to be done in your department as far as capital over the next 10-year period, so you can figure out what you can afford. I saw on the agenda last week, the last meeting and this meeting, for closed session, acquisition of land, possible acquisition of land, and I'm saying to myself, they don't even have the money earmarked to finish the police station, and we're already looking at what else we can buy. And that's what the problem's been all along. We need to set our priorities and stick to them. So if we're going to be buying some piece of land instead of, building a garage over at the Bushy School so they have a storage space, we're making a big mistake. Let's focus on what the immediate need is. And the immediate need is, let's finish the police station one way or another. I also would like the chief, one thing that the MBRTF never did, and they admitted they never did it, and the architect told us he never did it, was they never looked at the regular renovation of that building. They looked at the renovation additions to make it 23,000 square feet, but they never looked at the cost, what the cost would be today for the 2016 bid specs that went out. And I don't know how we were supposed to choose what we need to support when we don't have the numbers on one project. So I'd like to suggest that, maybe that committee could work with an architect and go over those 2016 bid specs along with the chief, see what he needs to have done, throw in a sally port of some type. They have chain link sally ports with roofs, something to satisfy it, and the garages. And then go with the 2016 bid specs. But you need to start moving on it because time is ticking. And every time you spend, you're going to be handicapped in making decisions. And I challenge you to listen to that tape because you heard Tecton say that several times. He tried to reel it back and say, look, you guys have to make a decision. What are you going to do? If you're putting on a roof, are you putting on a roof for 10 years or 40 years? So that's why it's going to be less, we're not going to be doing things in a way that makes sense if we just keep piecemealing this out. And the only other comment I have to make is that he made a comment, and I agreed totally with that you need to be careful about awarding a contract and then extending the contract or adding on to it. There's a bid process to be followed. And, for the MBRTF, the only 2 contracts we had with Secosha were for $120,000, and they were paid $190,000. That's not right. It's competitive bidding. So if you got another job that you want to add on, then go out to bid on it. But I think you get a better bang for the buck instead of doing it piecemeal with the roof with this contractor and this with that. If you'd all put it together in a package and go out to bid and get one price to finish the job. So that's about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Did anyone else want to get up for open forum? No one else? All right, we're going to move down. We're just going to move a couple of things around. The next one is discussion by council vote or other action on Rhode Island Emergency Management Agency, Public Safety Communications Director Marc Pappas, Deputy Director Tom Guthlein, Operations Support Branch Chief Gil Woodside. You can go right up to the podium.
I've got copies of everybody, so you can make notes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, thank you very much, Council, for having us back again. Always nice to be here. Appreciate the hospitality and welcoming us into your house. Thank you to Town Administrator Zielinski. Always appreciate the cooperation and the support we've gotten, so thank you very much. Before I get started, I just wanted to introduce a couple folks who came down in support. We have Chief Dean Hoxie from DEM Law Enforcement, who came to support from the police side, and Chief Tim Walsh from Lime Rock Fire, and also the EMA Director over in Woonsocket. So, as you know, we're trying to bolster public safety communications throughout the state of Rhode Island. One of the key sites for us to do that is a site located here in North Smithfield. Next slide, please. So a little bit about what Rhode Island EMA has been charged to do by the legislature under Rhode Island General Law 3015-43. It authorizes the Emergency Management Agency, the primary and only administrator for statewide communications of the radio system identified as RISCON, Rhode Island Statewide Communications Network. The system comprises 24 tower sites and 5 City of Providence sites, and they're all connected via microwave links, point to point, and also a fiber backhaul for redundant communications for first responder, police, fire, EMS, and others. Next slide, please. I take the pointer. So this is the proposal that we've come to and we've been working on with the town administrator and the council and also the police, fire, EMA director, and DPW director. So it would be a proposal to put a tower adjacent to the historical Maori Fire Tower which is the highest point on Woonsocket Hill Road. This site, one of the most critical sites we have, one of the 9 most critical sites we have. So the site requirements, we need to get access agreements from the property owners. We've done that already. We've talked to the property owners quite a bit over the last few months. And we've come to an agreement for us to be able to get some equipment through their property up to the top of the site so we can erect the tower and upgrade the microwave links. So I think one of the most important things was early on, the town administrator, Mr. Zielinski, wanted us to put some kind of less invasive looking tower, which we normally would put a lattice tower up. In this case, we spent about $500,000 more. It took us a little bit of time to get the money for it, but we're going to put a less invasive monopole tower up. We've never done that before, but for the sake of making everybody comfortable with the site, that's what we did. Next slide, please. So the new tower is approximately 30 feet above the treetops. It allows for decades of tree growth without interfering with communication, takes the stress off the fire tower by moving all the antennas to the new tower, and we've got some viewpoints for you to look at, so it's not really visible in the current configuration in a monopole, so it's not very invasive on the eye to see. And just for the council's edification and the town administrator, this is at no cost to the town. We're doing this. Next slide, please. So as you can see, the fire tower is to the right in this depiction. The Riscon antenna to the left. It exceeds the height a little bit, as you can see. And the footprint is pretty small. So we'll take what we have there at the site over, the shelter site, move it over. There'll be a generator part of that, so in case the power is lost, it'll back up. And the entire area is fenced around in the new tower. So these are the municipalities and entities that depend on this site being operational. So North Smithfield Police, Fire and DPW, Woonsocket Police, Fire and DPW, Woonsocket Dispatch Consoles, the Burrillville Police, the Smithfield Police, Lincoln Police, Fire and DPW, Department of Transportation, Department of Environmental Management, State Police, and RIPTA. Those are all the folks that would benefit from this. Future entities coming online soon would be Cumberland Fire, Burrillville Fire, and Smithfield Fire. So what we want to do, with your permission, after you see this presentation and discuss it amongst yourselves, is to erect a new 120-foot monopole tower adjacent to the existing building with funding that we have dedicated to do this, and reuse the existing communications building and generator for that tower site, all at no cost to the town. We'd add microwave connections to Burrillville and Cumberland, making a loop, and the funding exists through our state funding, which we call Riscon Phase 2. The end result, a 120-foot monopole tower that can hold all the town and state equipment with redundant microwave connections. Can you go to the next slide, please? I got a few pictures that I'd like to share quickly with you. That's where the site is. If you look, the little blue dot there in the middle of those woods, that's where the fire tower is now. That's the site we're looking to put the monopole tower. Next slide, please. Believe it or not, the tower is actually in this picture, depicted as a monopole. You can see the trees. Sorry. The pole is right in there. You can see it, I think. Barely. Next slide, please. And then we have a set of 4 from different viewpoints around to show what the impact on the visual would be for that monopole tower to be up. So that's going to conclude our presentation on the tower. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it. Hopefully, we can get going on the project. I know everything's ready to go, but we just need council approval and the town administrator to tell us to go. But I'm happy to answer any questions you have today. Yes.
I was just going to ask how long it would take once you start construction, approximately.
Ms. Gill, how long? Ish.
Weather dependent, 3 months.
give or take,
Yeah.
the area that it's in, we have to be concerned with, damage to the property, if it's too much rain,
Right.
too muddy and stuff, and getting the equipment in. Almost, 2 to 3 months.
Okay, thank you.
The folks in the corner from Green Mountain, they'd be working on the, tower site to put it up?
So basically, the first phase of it will be doing the construction of the road from the street. So we're gonna reopen that, get it so it's suitable for us to pass our equipment through. The tower itself is being offloaded at our crane location in Canton, Mass, so that we're not doing any impact to the local traffic and the streets, trying to set up cranes and stuff. So that will be trucked in once we get the access road built, and then we'll start getting the sections up to the top. Basically, this type of tower, it's 3 sections, are roughly 50 to 55 feet length, and they go shorter towards the top. But it's a less intrusive way of doing it so that we're not disturbing the surrounding neighbors and so forth. So, and like I said, like Gil pointed out, 2 to 3 months from start to finish, and we should be good to go. And then when we're all done construction, the first 1,000 feet of roadway going into this parcel will be paved so that we don't have any runoff into the streets and stuff like that. So, and that's a huge benefit for the town. So.
Thank you.
I was just going to ask that, so you're going to be building an access road, so where is that going to?
It's a great question. We just met with, the landowner where we're gonna access from, Mr. Ramos? Ramos? Yes. Antonio Ramos, a couple times. And he's given us permission to use his access to go right to the top.
So the existing, so years ago, probably 15 years ago, there used to be an access road for the abutter that's there currently, and there was the actual access road going up to there. They basically blocked it off and just got it so that there was people passing through there, ATVs and so forth, so they blocked it off, and they were utilizing another entrance to the parcel, and we're trying to do less traffic through the neighbor's yard, and this is less intrusive to it. So there'll be a gate and stuff like that, so there will be no passing traffic going up into the properties once we construct this. So, but that was the original access road. It's still there. Today it's just grown in with weeds and brush, but we're gonna clean it out and then just reestablish that road, so.
Thank you.
Do you have all the necessary, zoning, planning, permits, everything that?
So not yet.
That have to go?
We would have
you'd
to go,
through
come
that?
back to the council as we
Okay,
start the project to make sure that the proper permitting that you require for the town is in place.
okay. So are you you're not looking for a vote to move ahead tonight, or are you looking for a vote to move forward to the next steps?
What would the council prefer?
May I ask a question? Mr. Zelinski, didn't we already vote on this? I have to check my notes, but the last time you guys were here, I thought we voted to approve this already.
Yeah, I think you voted to approve whether or not we continued, but to this point, I'm not sure you gave us the green light to start sending the equipment up to the tower site.
Could that be checked out? I think we did too.
Council Beauregard, to my recollection, last time we had discussion, it was about a lattice tower, which the director aptly pointed out, we believed it was too intrusive. The lattice tower was donated to another community, and then the monopole came to North, is being proposed for North Smithfield.
Okay.
If you've already voted on it, then we'll get
I
started.
thought we did, but, yeah.
We might as well, go ahead.
Anyone have any other questions? Is that- Anyone make a motion?
Thank you very much. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we approve the continuation of the monopole tower on, near Murray Tower, and proceed with the next steps to its completion.
Second motion?
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Beauregard?
Yes.
Ms. Hamilton?
Yes.
Mrs. O'Hara?
Yes.
Mr. Ogier?
Yes.
Ms. Alves?
Yes. Thank you. All set. All right. Next item is presentation by the USDA Forest Service on service that is focused on the Rhode Island towns and Blackstone River watershed. Christopher Riley, conservationist and licensed forester.
Hi there. So this will be pretty informal and pretty quick. But I'm representing a number of partners in Rhode Island who are involved with a grant that's bringing USDA Forest Service funding to the Blackstone Valley towns in Rhode Island for stewardship of forests. I thought this might be of interest to some landowners here in North Smithfield, maybe both public landowners, town conservation lands, the land trust, and private landowners. And there is the main goals of the grant are to improve water quality, ultimately ending up in the Blackstone, since there are communities like Woonsocket, the Pawtucket Water Supply Board that all get their water from this watershed, not to mention all the private wells up here, and then also human health. There's a growing amount of research on how forests benefit human health. So for the parts of the program that would apply to North Smithfield, there's funding to help larger landowners, those who have more than 10 acres, sharing in the funding for developing forest stewardship plans for their land. This is somewhat analogous to having a strategic plan for your land, being able to take care of it. And then for some landowners, or namely private ones, it can help you then, when you have a plan in place, you can leverage additional funding to carry out some of the recommendations by working with USDA Natural Resources Conservation Service, for example. But it's certainly, we're going to different towns, in the Blackstone watershed. For example, the town of Cumberland is using some of this grant funding to get stewardship plans on some of their town conservation properties, and wanted to make sure that you're aware of it here. For landowners who have between 2 and 10 acres, formal forest stewardship plan may be more than you need, but there is funding for no cost forest assessments. Basically, walk out on the property with a professional forester like myself, or retired Deputy State Forester Paul Dolan, who's working on this program, getting a report with some recommendations and suggesting resources and things they could follow up to deal with some of the forest health issues that they might see on their land, or ways that they can get more out of it. For the forest stewardship plans, it's financial assistance for working with a professional forester. So I've left some of my sort of the applications for the town, land trust, private landowners who may be interested with the town clerk, Joanne, and my contact information. And just wanted to make you aware of this program and appreciate the invitation to come up.
So the Conservation Commission in our town would be an eligible entity?
Yes, they would be. So for forest stewardship plans for lands larger than 10 acres, the grant would pay for its half the cost of the forest stewardship plan on public lands, and then it's 75% of the cost for private lands. It's unusual to have for public landowners, for municipalities to get help with the cost of a forest stewardship plan. Most private landowners, you can go and work with the National Resources Conservation Service, and they have some of that funding. So this opportunity, because it's coming from the Forest Service, is somewhat unusual in that regard. And it's a modest amount of funding. It's several $1,000s, but that's enough for a few more plans. And we'd like to see them in different areas, throughout the part of the Blackstone watershed that's Rhode Island, not just all going in one geographic area. So that's why I'm up here tonight. Had a colleague who lives here in North Smithfield and suggested that this might be a good place to bring it. So I'd be happy to, later on, after the meeting and subsequent days or weeks, speak with the folks who take care of town, forest land, other, public entities, larger private landowners. As I say, I'm, working with a colleague who's the one who is managing the program for the smaller landowners who have, between, 2 and 10 acres of woods, where it's more of a informal woodland assessment.
Okay. Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Discussion by council vote or other action on North Smithfield Senior Citizen Advisory Committee position paper. Linda Tebow.
Can you even see me? I'm here. I want to thank President Alves and the council for letting me be here tonight. The purpose of this was there seemed to be some reluctance on the part of some of the members on the council to have a designated space for seniors. So our committee decided that we would have a position paper. It sounds official. And so let me just tell you all, this work has been a work in progress, and so there have been many little changes and such. And so the copy that you have has a couple of typos in it, so I'm going to tell you those as we go along. And I'd like to say I had a senior moment, but that wouldn't be nice. But actually, I'm a lousy proofreader, and that's the actual truth of it. So here we go. Put on the job lot cheetahs here. The North Smithfield Senior Citizen Advisory Committee voted unanimously on April 28, 2021, on its mission to provide programs and services for North Smithfield seniors age 55 and older so that they may remain active and independent in the community, and voted unanimously on May 17, 2021, to provide a designated space to offer these programs and services for North Smithfield seniors. This mission drives the committee's directive to the North Smithfield Town Council to provide such a designated space for North Smithfield seniors. According to the 2020 U.S. Census, North Smithfield's total population is approximately 12,477. Residents, 12,477 residents. 15.04, not 14.6 as you have, or 1,876 North Smithfield residents are between the ages of 55 and 64. 22.61, not 22.5 that you have, or 2,821 residents are older than 65. The town's total population in the 2010 census was 11,766, demonstrating an increase in the overall population of approximately 6% in 10 years. The senior population in 2010 was 3,757. In 2020, the senior population increased to 4,697, not 4,657 that you had. That was an increase of approximately 24%. These numbers indicate that the senior population grew at 4 times the rate of the general population. The Halliwell Review Committee conducted a town-wide survey to solicit residents' opinion on the reuse of the Halliwell site. The survey was completed by 441 residents. The survey results revealed a vast majority of residents, 41%, voted for the senior center. The remaining 29 votes were spread between selling the property, creating gardens, open space, police station, medical buildings, business opportunities, and a community center. A mini charrette was held in July 2021 by the Halliwell Review Committee. Also revealed that services for seniors in North Smithfield were woefully lacking, virtually non-existent. Community feedback showed a top priority for building a senior center. Those in attendance agreed that North Smithfield needed a space for seniors to engage with one another, receive meals, and take classes. There is a clear need for a designated space for seniors. When the question was asked, well, excuse me, what would you like to see from the property? A senior center was the biggest reply. And if you look at the last slide of that charrette, senior center was in big letters. North Smithfield seniors are members of senior centers in surrounding communities. 100 North Smithfield members are members of the Gus Ayart Senior Center in Woonsocket. 89 North Smithfield residents are members of the Lincoln Senior Center. 39 residents are members of the Gloucester Senior Center, and some are members of the North Providence and Johnson Senior Center. North Smithfield was awarded a $4 million grant that could possibly provide such a designated space for seniors in North Smithfield. There are 4 senior housing sites and a 55 and older housing community in North Smithfield. The Director of Veterans Affairs, Kasim Yarn, said at the annual Veterans Dinner, "If you want to know how your veterans are doing, look to your senior centers." And to quote the chair of the Senior Citizen Advisory Committee, the presence or absence of a senior center speaks volumes about a town. In conclusion, the 2020 U.S. Census number indicate that 37.65 or 4,697 of North Smithfield residents are over the age of 55. The North Smithfield population growth from 2010 U.S. Census to the 2020 U.S. Census reveals the senior population in North Smithfield is growing, excuse me, at 4 times the rate of the general population. The Halliwell survey resulted excuse me, in a 41% vote for a senior center, combined with the number of North Smithfield residents seeking senior center membership in surrounding communities, clearly demonstrates a need for a designated space for seniors in North Smithfield. This evidence, coupled with the mission of the North Smithfield Senior Advisory Committee, drives the committee's directive to urge the North Smithfield Town Council to provide a designated space for North Smithfield seniors. And I have one more thing that I found after this research was all done prior, obviously. It has been a work in progress. But I have another piece of demographics here. As I was doing the required continuing education to renew my RN license, I found an article in the Orthopedic Journal, which, by the way, is a peer-reviewed journal, December 2022, that the U.S. Census Bureau projects by the year 2030, 1 in 5 Americans will be older than 65 years old, which I think is quite telling. But as an orthopedic nurse, my bigger concern was that the Centers for Disease Control said that projects that 1 in 4 of these seniors will fall each year and end up with a broken hip. So it really tells me that we really need to continue the work that we've been doing. And most recently, I've decided that I will go back to a program that I developed a long time ago, and it's called a Lunch and Learn. So I will be going to the 4 senior housing sites in North Smithfield to bring some of the topics, health-related topics that might be helpful. And since I've seen this last information, my first one is going to be fall prevention. And we'll look at risk factors and some strategies to prevent falls. So thank you very much for your time, and good night.
Discussion by council vote or other action on request of unused Economic Development Commission budget funds to be transferred to enterprise fund. Mr. Byron? Yeah.
I'd like to thank the council for giving me the opportunity to make this request tonight. Every year, our budget for the EDC is $200, and every year we don't spend a dime in it. We have a business revolving fund that's been in place since Arthur Denomi was the one who put it in. And from all the research that I've seen, it hasn't been able to be used, or no one's taken advantage of it since the 146 rink was built, and they used the money to put the boards in, and they repaid the loan back to the town. For the last 4 or 5 years, I've been asking, and no one can seem to give me the answer, is how do you apply for this loan? What's the terms, and whatever? Well, recently, for the last 3 or 4 years, I've been meaning to come forward and request that our stipend, whatever's not used, be rolled over to this fund so it can grow. But unfortunately, we haven't had a majority, a quorum until Mr. Zielinski found a couple of members for us. So at our last meeting, we took a vote and voted to ask the council that at the end of the fiscal year, whatever monies are not used from that $200 gets put into that business revolving loan. Or another word I think is they use as an enterprise fund. So that's my request.
And you said no one has used it? Like, we haven't used it?
The last that I could find that anybody used this money was going back to in the end of '80s when the 146 rink was built. And at that time, they borrowed $50,000 to purchase the boards for the rink, and it was paid back. That's the last that I could find in all the records I've done. Debbie Todd helped me go through minutes of meetings, and this fund was started by Arthur Denomi when he was town administrator.
So is it something
And right
that-
now, presently, I checked with the finance director, presently there's like $58,950 in that fund.
Obviously, it's something that needs to be advertised. I mean,
Well,
do
that was
businesses even
what
know
I
that we-
asked before is, how do you advertise it? What's the terms? How do you apply? What's going to be the parameters? There's never been anything set up of how someone can apply for it. I mean, obviously, it was intended to be for businesses coming into town, and whether it's a beauty parlor wanting to buy new hair dryers or something like that. But there is nothing in far as terms, how it gets paid back. How do you qualify? Is it just qualified to be a business? So that's something else that, if we're going to continue with this revolving loan, I'd like to have some parameters set up that how somebody could apply for it.
Yeah.
Now, the subsequent thing that I have on agenda will kind of ask how to use that funds, and that'll be the next thing that I'm on the agenda about.
Has anyone looked into other cities and towns, and do they have anything similar that we could model
No.
from?
So no other cities or towns?
I
offer
know
this?
ones that I
Oh, no
know
one's
of.
looked into it.
I didn't look.
David, is that something that would be easy to look into, just by checking with a couple of cities and towns to see if they offer that, so we can kind of at least get the program up and running? Because obviously, we're never going to use the money if we don't have any terms or process on how to apply for it. Or Anthony, can you?
If I may.
Yeah.
My next presentation will be how we can use this money.
Right, but I think we
Yeah.
should have a process, if it's going to be available, at least have it out there, how it could be
Yeah.
used for business.
I'm trying to do a search in our folders right now to see if there's any documentation on it. But otherwise, I can check with other communities to see if there's, just do a search. Reach out to a couple, see if there's anything that they have.
Okay. And then you can get back to us?
Yeah, I would assume we have some type of documentation. It's just a matter of whether it was kept or
I mean, I
whether
don't
we
know if
have it
we're
or
going to
not.
have to go back to the time that the ice rink actually
Yeah.
applied for it and what they had for
There
backup.
may have been another entity after the fact, but no one knows. And I went back to prior members, like that were on the EDC 15 and 20 years ago, and they had no recollection.
Okay.
If I may, we might be putting the cart before the horse, right? Because if we approve what you're
Yeah,
gonna say
yeah,
next, then
yeah,
there's not gonna be any money
yeah.
in there anyway,
Yeah.
so.
But if we offer a program, we should have
True.
something
Right.
that people can refer to say, oh, I want to use this program, this is what I need to do, so. All right, so you can get back to us on that? All right.
Can I just ask a
Mhm.
question? Is, excuse me, Anthony, is that something that you see as a line item in the budget?
No.
No, it's a separate fund.
So it's a separate fund, and as far as you know, there's nothing that says it's allocated specifically for that, or does it have any indication of what it's been
The
set
name
aside
of
for?
it is Business Revolving Fund.
It is titled that?
Yeah,
Oh,
the name
okay.
of the fund is Business Revolving Fund. And as far as I've been told from like going through our accounts over time, it's not something I've really dived into, but from what I've been told, it's for this purpose. That's what its origination was for, is to businesses to pull into and then pay back.
So we would loan? Okay. We would loan a business, they would pay us, but we'd have to have specific,
Or procedure in place.
Call on me.
pardon me?
call on me. Were you asking for advice or how we can go about it?
I'm asking how you would normally,
Well, first
have
thing,
done that.
tomorrow, I will reach out to other communities and see if they have such a revolving fund. I would imagine that they do. So we'll go there. We'll try to research what the last loan was given to, as the council president said, go back to the ice rink, see what was accomplished there. So I think some of the records were destroyed over at Old Town Hall when the sewer line broke, so I don't know if those records are even findable, but we'll look. It was before the age of digital. We can take a look. So I can do my best to get those answers for you starting tomorrow.
You know, I think that was started when we had our own hockey association, and a lot of parents are very active, and that arena was built after. I remember going down Thanksgiving to skate, because we had a key. And they borrowed, and to my knowledge, they're the only ones that did. The people that owned it, the Drive family at that time.
I can only recall the ice skating rink being one of the applicants for a loan, the only one.
I believe that funds have been drawing interest, and that's why it's at the amount of money that it is. Because I think originally that loan was only 50,000.
That's what I was
So
gonna ask, is
over
where that
the years,
9,000.
my understanding when I've gone to budget committee meetings that it has been drawing, it's in an interest-bearing account, that it has been drawing interest on it.
So
It's on a money market, yeah.
The finance director just gave the update. It's $57,829. So if you want to round it to 58, that's fine. That's what's in the account.
Okay.
Yeah, it looks like it's in a money market. I'm looking at a statement back from 2020, but I would need to do more research and find the funds and before I can give any more data or information on it.
So we don't have any recent statements?
No, this is from Century Bank, and I haven't seen anything from Century Bank personally. So I'll have to do some digging.
We know it's there.
It exists. I have an account number, but just got to dig it out.
Okay.
Interesting.
Okay.
No, I didn't
So
know.
I would request that, my initial reason for being here was to roll over the unused funds from the budget of the Economic Development Corporation, be put back into that business revolving loan.
Okay. Anyone have any questions for Mr. Byron?
So, may I?
Mm-hmm.
If you needed money, you would take it out of that?
Yeah, I guess it's, if we
I
were
mean-
gonna send out mailers, originally,
Well,
5
that's,
years ago, that it was 500, and when I went to the budget committee meeting, I got them to, because we weren't using the money, and I didn't think about rolling it over, and I think it was like maybe 3 years ago, we reduced it to $200 in the budget for line item. So, like I said, since COVID, actually 2 weeks ago was our first meeting in about 3 years, because of quorum and COVID.
yeah.
And there was nothing for us to discuss, so.
I guess my question is, if it's going to be a revolving loan for businesses, it can't be used for the work of the committee, right?
Well, I think,
how does that work?
I think they would still get a budget line item,
Well,
if
they
I'm hearing correctly.
should,
They would get a
right?
budget line item and then say the 200 was never touched. They would ask that money then gets put into the revolving fund.
Instead of going back in the
Instead of going
general
back into
fund
the
at
general
the
fund.
end of the
So
fiscal year, it would roll over.
Earmark it to that
Yeah.
account. Okay, thank you.
Anyone have any more questions? Anyone make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve, it's the earmark, I'll make the motion to approve the earmarking or the moving of the unused amounts, unused funds from the Economic Development Committee into the Business Revolving Fund.
That's a motion.
Second.
And a second. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Biragad.
Yes.
Ms. Hamilton.
Yes.
Mrs. O'Hara.
Yes.
Mr. Ogier.
Yes.
Ms. Alves.
Yes.
Thank you.
You want to stay up?
Yeah.
Discussion by council vote or other action on Economic Development Commission request for authorization to draft and release an RFP for professional services.
As I believe you're all aware, for the last 2 or 3 years, some individuals have been working diligently to secure a water line down 146 for business and economic development for the town. A couple of weeks ago, Mr. Zalski called me, didn't realize that I was chairman of the EDC, and started discussing to me what's been taking place. And I guess there's some new developments that I'm not sure that the council is aware of, so I invited Mr. Zalski tonight to give you that, and then I got Scott Gibbs here also to talk about where we want to go with EDC with this project. So I'd like to ask Gary to come up.
Good evening, Gary Zofsky, 88 North Main Street. As the council knows, for quite some time, there's been discussion ongoing about encouraging the construction of a water line down 146. Again, as you know, Administrator Zwolinski, Councilman Beauregard, and I, as well as representatives from the city of Woonsocket, met with the governor back in, it was October.
Yeah,
And the hope was that ARPA funds could be found to be able to fund a water line installation. It's a big ticket. It's the estimate that was accomplished by PAR Engineering over the last, I don't know, 15 months or so was on the order of $17 million. It's not an amount of money that can be distributed simply to landowners and with any expectation that it would be affordable. You could be looking at numbers that would be on the order of $500 to $1,000 a foot. It's an expensive endeavor. So we had been hoping to get to the governor's office to be able to secure ARPA funding. By the time we got through negotiation with the city of Woonsocket, your negotiation with the city of Woonsocket and such, there were no ARPA monies to be found. The legislature was not in session. It pretty much, became end of story back in October. Last month, in the middle of last month, I got a call from the chair of the Water Commission in Lincoln. And that gentleman was referred to me by Bob Benoit of Anchor Subaru, who I know the council and most people are aware has been working to try to find a way to get water to his business for quite a number of years. Mr. Benoit has an arrangement with Lincoln that was secured years ago that Lincoln does not want to do. The hydraulics of the Lincoln system are such that even if they do bring a water line up to Anchor Subaru, the only water that they could provide would be domestic. The hydraulics are not sufficient to be able to provide fire suppression. Beyond that, Lincoln knows and expects that, and I think we would expect also, that if a water line is brought up, that others, property owners, are going to say, hey, me too. And Lincoln is not, as I understand it, they have no interest in an expansion over the town line, which at some point could trip them into oversight by the Public Utilities Commission. Just like our Slater's Water Company, we manage it locally. We don't have to go outside the town for approval of our rates and such. And Lincoln is in the same circumstance and would like to remain that way. So the reason that the gentleman called me is that he is an experienced water management engineer and thinks that, as we were looking, that a connection to Woonsocket is absolutely the right way to go. And he indicated that he was going to be going to the State Water Resources Board the next morning for a meeting. And he would be pitching the idea that, the line should come out of Woonsocket. And he was energized to the point of saying, Water Resources has money. They collect a fee, few cents a gallon, or I don't know what the number is anymore, a penny, some fraction of an amount on every gallon of water that's sold across the state. And he thinks that some of that money could be used to at least get a plan moving. After the meeting, he called to tell me that I should expect a call from the executive director of the Water Resources Board. She did call that evening. We talked for quite a while to go through the history of what's been happening. She also believes that it is the right thing to do, and to, you know, both from a local and a statewide perspective. So something that was thought to be gone all of a sudden is alive, or has a pulse maybe. And so what to do? The reality, in all of the discussions that I've had, it becomes clear that, you know, when we met with the governor, as the administrator will be able to confirm, and Councilman Beauregard, I mean, he was hesitant to say that, well, yeah, we're just going to go out and find the money to be able to do this, without concern that we would be, I think his word was, enriching local landowners. There needs to be a contribution from the landowners. There needs to be some assistance from the state, maybe the federal government. And as I looked at it, it becomes a circumstance, I think, that if we can, you know, press for the right situation, it probably needs to be a lot like what happened when sewers were first brought to town, where you know, it was supposed to be a 75% federal, 15% state, and 10% local, and it really turned out to be 75% federal and state and 25% local for the installation of the interceptor line that runs from the Woonsocket City line through to the front of the town memorial building. And that line was funded, that 25% that was funded locally was funded by the entire town, even though it was recognized that there are portions of the town that will never see a sewer line. The concept was that it would be an overall benefit to the town in that water quality throughout the area would be beneficial. I believe at this point that it will take that kind of a circumstance to be able to make something happen out there. And, you know, the ongoing construction project is still, you know, something that says, what can we do while that is happening? Everything that I learned from the conversations I had with DOT is that, you know, the time has passed. They won't allow us to creep into this circumstance. I don't know, you know, how firm that might be, or I think a lot of it depends on just how much we ask to have happen. And in the conversation with the governor's office, we were told that there is room to be able to put piping in outside the paved area. If you recall, when we talked about this long ago, we wanted to get it in now while the roadway is being dug up, and to avoid a circumstance where the state says, wait a minute, we just paved that road, you're not putting anything in it for a long time. Well, we got information from DOT that says that there's ample room outside the paved area in the finished product to be able to install lines. What we would have to do is jack under the road, or horizontal drill under the road, to be able to make connections from side to side, which are necessary as to service the area. Those are expensive. Those are really expensive on a per foot basis. And I look at it and say, if the only benefit of this conversation tonight and going forward through Water Resources is that lines could be dropped under the roadway now to eliminate the horizontal drilling. If we could get far enough down the road to get a design plan completed and to drop those lines in, we would be well ahead of the game to understand, or to be able to afford and continue to pursue a program, a multi-level program to make it all happen. So all of these things are, by my assessment, still in play. And the question for us is, or the point I think that I need to make, and I made to the EDC, and they supported, is that we need to get in the game. We can't just sit and wait for the state or the federal government to come in and do the work. And to be able to look at a multi-level, a multi-layered funding program, the concept that we've thought about is to look at what a tax increment financing plan could be for funding of waterline construction in that area. In other words, put a water line in, what does it do to the use of the land on both sides of the highway? I think anyone who's driven out there of late can realize that it isn't what we want.
No.
The area is declining. Residents have been leaving, for their own reasons. I haven't spoken to any to really know what they are, but I think we can all conjure our own thoughts as to what they are. It's not the inviting place to live that it once was. And some of the properties are being operated in ways that apparently satisfy our zoning, but do they really satisfy our wants? I don't think they do. And I think we have to do something. So my recommendation to the EDC is to follow through on something that Scott Gibbs and I, who I'll ask, or Steve will bring along, to further explain, to get a study to understand what that tax increment financing piece might look like. And I pursued that with a gentleman that Scott recommended I talked to back, I don't know, 6 months or so ago. He gave us a budget of $30,000 to $35,000. Previously when we needed $5,000 for a design plan for the water line, I went to, I knew we couldn't do it as a town in any kind of swift fashion. I went to Mr. Benoit, and he said, sure, I'll fund it, and he did, and we have a report, and you have that report, that came up with the $17 million estimate. I didn't have the stomach to go back to Mr. Benoit and say, hey, how about $35,000? I don't think any individual should be having to carry this entire burden. I think it is a wise investment for the town to be able to look at what we can do with that area by getting a water line in and forecasting what the increased tax revenue would be to be able to pay part of the bill. Can it pay the entire $17 million? I don't know, but I'm going to expect that, no, it probably won't. On the other hand, we need to get in the game to be able to go to the state and go to our federal delegation and say, hey, we need help. And we all, as a state, need to change what is out there, not just for the benefit of tax revenue in North Smithfield or in individual residents, but it's our front door from the north as a state. And it's not getting better, it's getting worse. And also along the way, we have businesses that are dangling by a thread on wells that, whether it's questions about past problems out there or even current circumstance with biology that is a problem for one main business out there that needs a water line. So I would hope that the council will support a use of this EDC fund to be able to see what we can do in the way of economic development on Route 146 by getting a utility out there that can change the complexion. We expect that we could get an RFP together quite quickly and get something back for decision for the council, for the EDC and the council in pretty quick order.
Thank you.
When Gary had talked to me a couple of weeks ago about where they could find the funds, I thought of the $50,000 that's sitting in the EDC. I couldn't think of a better use of funds than economic development. When I pitched the thing to the town planner, he thought that was a great idea. Mr. Zelinski thought it was a great idea, the use of that funds. Talking to the town planner, I guess maybe a month or two ago, he had gotten an inquiry. Someone was interested in buying the rustic drive-in to put in tiers of stores, or a market or something to that effect. But when they found out there was no water, they pulled out. If you also remember, maybe about, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, there was a proposal by Lakeside Pools to put in a shopping plaza down in the back there. That fell through, the lack of water.
Yeah.
And like Mr. Zowski said, you know, and I've had friends of mine who live in the other parts of the state, and when they come up 146, they're appalled to see what they come in between and I'm not to pick on any business, because business is business and they generate money. But you got a dumpster company, a tree company, a paving company, and a roofing company. And then on the other side of the street, you got businesses that have been vacant for years. That the flea market is number one. That's been vacant for years. And we all know that there's a lack of area in North Smithfield that we can develop business growth. And I think, and we took a vote in the EDC, and we were 100% unanimous that it's like Mr. Zowski said, it's about time we start being proactive as far as soliciting businesses to help with the residential tax burden. So that's my request. That and Mr. Gibbs will explain how that the next phase would work.
Good evening. Case has been made about the problems faced on the 146 corridor. In a state that is desperately in need of development land, in our opinion, the 146 corridor offers a very unique opportunity. But there are significant constraints, and obviously the biggest constraints are lack of infrastructure, not just water, in my opinion, also sewer. So the question really becomes, how do you advance that idea? How do you underwrite it? And that's the challenge. There is a program within state statutes called the Tax Increment Financing Program. It was a piece of legislation that was rewritten maybe 7 years ago. I rewrote it with Karen Grandy, who is an attorney, I may have actually provided bond counsel to the town of North Smithfield, I'm not sure, which made the program a lot easier to use. The idea behind tax increment financing is it basically allows a town to capture a portion of new property tax revenue generated from development to pay for a TIF bond. A TIF bond is not a general obligation bond, it's a revenue bond. The problem always is that in the case, it's one thing when you do a TIF bond for a specific project that's ready to go. It's another thing when you use a TIF bond on speculation. Speculation is that development will happen in the 146 corridor. That subsequently means that a TIF bond will effectively require a credit enhancement. The credit enhancement can actually be provided through the Rhode Island Industrial Recreational Building Authority, which I serve on the board of. And I actually talked to them several years ago about this, and they could enhance a TIF bond. And in talking to some of my colleagues who provide consulting services throughout the country, credit enhancements associated with TIF bonds is very customary, because a lot of times it's on speculation. But in order to actually fully assess a TIF bond strategy, there's two separate steps. Step one is a preliminary feasibility assessment. You take a look at the corridor, you look at the land development options, and you come up with what would be a reasonable build-out scenario for that. And from that, you can then calculate what potential tax revenue would be to generate from that. If that proves favorable, then you can turn around and go to the next stage. And the next stage is actually put together what's called a TIF district. In the state of Rhode Island, you have two options. You can do a TIF district within a redevelopment district. That's the old game. Or do a TIF district that doesn't have to be part of a redevelopment district, which is the new game, which is the one I was involved in rewriting. Effectively, it would go through the town council. It would allow to establishment of a district, creation of a budget, and the investment of monies to expand infrastructure. But we really need to get through those two phases, phase one and then phase two. I spoke to a couple colleagues, again, in the marketplace who do this kind of work throughout the country. Typically, that's going to run about $35,000. First phase is the feasibility side, which is around $8,000. Then, if that proves favorable, then there's about a $28,000 next phase, which actually puts together the district plan. That's pretty much customary across the board. There are ways maybe to manage that cost a little bit, but that's pretty much what the market supports. So the idea would be, in order to underwrite the cost of infrastructure improvements in 146, it's going to require a creative, capital stack. TIF could be part of that capital stack. The other part of the capital stack could be connection fees by property owners, and then other sources of funding yet to be defined. So that's really the overall gist of it. I've received a couple RFPs that were solicited by communities in New England. I am going to, if the town council is in support of going in this direction, I will, in conjunction with the town planner, rewrite that RFP to be consistent with what the town wants, and then we can go to market, get proposals in, and then ultimately the awarding of a contract would be up to the town council, and that would be funded through the funds that Steve Byron represented. That's it. Any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them. Oh, by the way, Scott Gibbs, 16 Maple Ave, I am a resident. I run the Economic Development Foundation Rhode Island. We built Highland Corporate Park. That's one of our projects. We do a lot of consulting work with cities and towns throughout New England.
So I have a quick question. So given that usually a TIF is repaid by, taxes from new construction, right? Absent that, because you're speculating right now, right? Where does the money come from?
If you can't fund it, you can't fund it. Just going to have to figure out a way to fund it. If we can get TIF, TIF will definitely generate something. The question is...
Over time.
Oh, well, true. And the question is, how much will it generate?
Right.
How much it can generate realistically will define what the gap is, what the remaining gap is, based on the project cost. How do you fund the balance of that gap becomes the big question. So you would have the TIF bond, which would fund a portion of it. Then you would have connection fees by property owners serviced in the area, which also would represent it. Then you're going to have a gap. The gap is, how do you fund that? You can fund that through municipal appropriation, the federal grant, whatever it may be. I don't know. It's too early to tell.
And what about credit enhancement? How does that work in terms of repayment?
Credit enhancement is nothing more than a credit enhancement. It basically entices the private marketplace to fund the bond. That's all it does. Okay. So in the case of URBA, and I used an URBA credit enhancement when I built Highland Corporate Park, because we weren't going to get a bank to finance the infrastructure on a spec land development project. So URBA stepped in. They provided a credit enhancement to the bank financing, which effectively says if all of a sudden we weren't able to pay the debt, URBA steps in to pay the debt. They don't. It's not an insurance. It's an enhancement. So we'll pay it until it right sizes. So that's basically how it does. You pay a fee for the credit enhancement. The credit enhancement fee is based on the actual level of principal insured. I think for Highland Corporate Park, it was something to the effect of $15,000 a year. It wasn't an astronomical amount of money.
And would we take into consideration not only water but sewer, because it makes no sense if we're doing that too?
Yeah, Gary, and I don't want to make a statement that contradicts what other people have said. I can only tell you from my opinion, based on my development experience, what is necessary. Yeah. I really think sewer is part of the deal. Water critical. Water is the gold everywhere, but you still need sewer. Because if you don't have sewer, then you have to find on-site wastewater treatment strategies. They're not cheap.
Very expensive.
So I think you need really both to be marketable. I can tell you right now, in the 146 corridor, you're not going to get any investment. Not anything of any credibility without infrastructure. It's just not going to happen. You can't compete in this business without full infrastructure. It's not possible.
So you're talking, what we know of is the 17 to 20 million for water. We don't have any cost for
Yeah, I don't know
associated
anything.
with
Gary's the one that's had those
with
conversations, not me.
sewer, right? Not yet.
We had some very early conversations about sewer, but they never progressed. Recognize that with the advanced treatment systems that are available today, quite a lot can be done. I mean, that's how the businesses that are existing out there now. Anchor Subaru is working on, and it's a big business, that is living on an advanced treatment system. But, if you don't have water to put in the front end, it doesn't matter what you've got in the back end. Would it be nice to have both? It sure would. I don't think that we're looking at a timeline where, sewer has to be gravity flowed, generally, to be most affordable. That means that it's not as flexible as water. Ideas that we would be able to do both would be great. I don't think that in the time and the circumstance that we have, that both are a realistic objective.
But may I just ask another question? So you did say that you felt that if there was any construction on our part, it did not have to be done in conjunction with this current project, because they told you there was room on the side, right?
Right, except for the crossings.
Except for the crossings.
And again, with sewers, you're dealing with a lot more in the way of those kinds of problems.
Mm-hmm.
If I could add to that, I'm not going to sit here and represent it's going to be easy. It's not going to be easy. But I've heard that before. It can be done if the motivation behind this community was there. But if you don't do it now, you're out for good, for a long time. And I just see the opportunity cost there to be horrific as a taxpayer and resident in this town. I can't tell you how frustrating it is for me every time I drive down 146 to see that. It is despicable. And that's actually the gateway to Rhode Island from the north. That's what you see when you come into Rhode Island. That's North Smithfield. I'm not sure that's something I'm going to be very proud about. So I think that the challenges are very severe here. And because of the status of 146 upgrade, it's not easy. But if we move quickly and bring the right political forces to bear behind it, I think we can get the attention and change the trajectory of this. But we have to move really, really quick. And as I told Gary when he called me about this, I don't know, Gary, time passes really quick, like 6 months ago or something. And I basically said, you've got to make the story. You've got to make your argument. And the argument is economic development. If you're going to get the state's attention, which is not easy to do, sorry, Paulette, it's not easy to do, you've got to make an economic development argument. And if you get your facts in place, and you start to demonstrate what could happen on that corridor, now all of a sudden you get the attention. Because if you look around the state of Rhode Island, there's nothing. This state is in a land supply crisis right now. There's nothing out there. Every time we get a lead, we can't service that lead because we don't have the land for them. That's the problem. North Smithfield's in a position that they can take advantage of that.
So I guess my question would be the proposal that you are putting forth right now would provide us with all the information we need? It would give us total costs? It would give us breakdown by...
No. What we're asking for is not an engineering study. What we're asking for are funds to prepare a two-phase project. Phase one, a TIF feasibility study, and phase two would actually put together a TIF district.
How often do you find that a TIF, when it's done on speculation, is successful?
In Rhode Island,
For
it's
the
not done
town.
very often.
Not often.
Throughout New England, it's done all the time. Connecticut uses it excessively.
And why are we less successful?
Well, there's a good question.
No, really.
Why are we,
Rhode
why are
Island.
we not successful in a lot of areas? Because we lack conviction. We lack creativity.
Well,
We lack the commitment
lack
to do
money.
what's necessary to be done. This is not Quonset Point. Everything, all the state resources go down to Quonset Point, we all celebrate. You know what? Enough of that. Bottom line is, what are we going to get up here? And you know, when we built Highland Park, we got all sorts of that naysay attitudes, not yours, but the public,
Right.
about, but, you know, we got it done. We got it done because the mayor of Cumberland at that time understood its value, and we got the money, and I even had people on my board that said we were wasting our money. Well, go up at Highland and look at it now. You know, it just takes courage. But if you look at just the basic locational issues of infrastructure and land, if you can basically deliver those two things, you will be successful, especially on the 146 corridor, because a lot of the economic activity is to our north.
Okay, so I'm just going to ask one more question. I know I asked too many questions, and I apologize to everybody, but so now with the flyover, how does that affect the ability for anyone to stop?
I don't think I think it enhances it. Absolutely. It makes it a lot better than it is right now.
Oh,
So now the access is going to be separated, so the sites on parallel to that road will be more accessible, and the traffic is going to be more straight through, as opposed to stopping in an intersection. It's a much better
But it will-
locational opportunity.
It'll go straight through, so are they planning on having
Yes,
places where
yeah,
you could get, if you had a pad-ready site?
yeah.
you
There's
could have-
parallel roads that are going to go right along with that, and off of it are going to be potential, both existing sites and land that can be developed. But right now, bottom line is a controlled intersection with a separated highway is the worst case scenario for development. Now, what they're proposing to do enhances that from a traffic access standpoint, so you can actually market that area for investment and development. It's much easier to do it after the fact with that infrastructure improvement done than it is under its current situation.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any more questions?
But if a new business decided to go in and we had this infrastructure and we just have water and now it's up to the new business to put in their sewer, wouldn't that be a surprise to them that they wouldn't have sewer available to
It
them?
wouldn't be a surprise, depends on how you market the property. Do you market it as sites with water as opposed to fully serviced sites and then find out after the fact that they don't have sewer? You gotta market it appropriately. I still will argue it's best to put sewer in there too. But that's something we can address during the process. But Gary and I can agree to disagree on that. I mean, I built several industrial parks, and I can tell you that 99% of the companies that invested would have never gone in there without sewer.
Right.
They needed it both.
Right.
And the gas was nice too, but it's not a prerequisite. We can work through that situation.
I mean, I think with the water, you're enticing them a little bit, but you're still at,
Well, without the water is the one deal killer. That's the gold. Everybody, all the communities know, if they don't have water, they're not in the game. So if I had one or the other, I'd rather have water. The sewer can be dealt with an on-site system. I'm just saying that sometimes that's not the best case scenario. But without water, you've got nothing, absolutely nothing.
I think also that area, you're not looking at a business that's gonna put up a monstrous building that would require sewers. It's probably more mom and pop, or maybe, like Angus Subaru, they can supply us with on-site sewage disposal system.
I look at that corridor being, Steve is a small business guy.
I was going to say, you
And
want
I
big
love
business.
Steve.
You don't want
I see
for
that
a
as,
TIF.
I see that as corporate.
Me too.
That's a corporate corridor.
Absolutely. Or else forget it.
It's got such
You
high,
can't
it's
nickel
got
and dime.
such high visibility.
Visibility.
That's a corporate location.
Yeah.
But, it's got to meet the corporate investment
I've been pushing
locations.
for 2 years for a major company to come to North Smithfield, and they've looked to another area. And when I looked at it 3 years ago, I was told that they needed demographics to have within 5 mile radius, 100,000 population. Well, I found out that where they were going, they're changing their mind. So I've talked to Mr. Zelinski and the town planner about us putting a request into them, because we still have the information in town, because the previous town planner had sent a letter to them coming to it, and we have the perfect site for them, which is the Brickell site, which no access, no impact on any resident. You pick it up right at Pound Hill Road on 146. I mean, that, like Scott said, that corridor you can get anywhere from, to Connecticut, 295, 95, 495, 93. It's a perfect area for business development.
I would also suggest, as a sidebar, working with the town planner, that in looking, if the town council wanted to be aggressive with that corridor, that we should do it in conjunction with some looking at the land use regulations. Burrville's been very proactive on that, on the Broncos Highway corridor, being very careful that they don't want to see just strip development with curb cuts everywhere. They're trying to be very proactive. Same thing here. We need to take a hard look. Because if you don't, then the land use regulations give you what you have, which you can see right now, what we have. And I don't want to, I'm not being disparaging about the people that are there. I'm just saying I don't think that's what the vision of this town is for the future, personally. That's not the vision for me as a resident. Thank you.
No, thank you.
I just have one quick question.
Thank you.
How long does the study take? I don't know if you said.
In speaking with a couple companies that I talked to, the feasibility study would take about 6 weeks. And the total project, if we went past feasibility full, would take probably 3 to 4 months maximum.
Okay, thank you.
And Gary, the clock's not ticking, because when we were talking to the governor, we thought the clock was ticking. It was almost, but there's time there?
Well, I think that makes a difference, right? No, I think that makes a difference. If we know that we're under the gun, that's a good question.
Well, at very least, though.
Or not.
But at very least, you're right, the time might be expiring as far as putting it down the center. But it always exists the possibility of putting it on a parallel road right along.
The issue is, I think there still is a window to be able to get some of the construction done while the road is opened up.
Right.
All of it, I don't think so.
And are you proposing a TIF for that? Because,
I don't know how it will be funded in Council.
well,
What we're looking at right now is to try to just get a sense as to what the community could afford as it relates to the improvement that a water line would bring. If, if the study says there's no improvement, we do nothing. And I don't, we have to wait for someone to come in with the money. But if the study says that there could be a significant change in revenue from that area, our window opens up as to what's possible. Right now, we've got nothing. And we have a governor who says, hey, you want me to enrich the local landowners? We've got to get in the game. And, this is the game that can be played at the moment. Would I like to do more? Of course I would. Everything that's been talked about would be better. But this is the option that is available to us presently in a timeline that could fit at least a portion of it, to get rid of the expense of the jacking under the highway. While the DOT representatives, you can just drill under it. Well, talk to the fellow from Lincoln who called me and says, yeah, okay, talk to people that can afford to do that. We could wind up eating up everything that we might be able to cobble together just to put those pipes in, and have nothing to be able to do, just to do the jacking.
Well, can I ask a question about that, the jacking? If you're going to put it down the middle?
No.
Oh, you're not? You're going to put it in one of the north or south?
You can't put a water line, or any kind of a utility that requires regular service, you can't go down the middle.
We go down the north or southbound lane.
A high volume
So depending on what side of the highway you're on, you're gonna have to do some kind of.
You're gonna have to do laterals across.
Okay.
You're gonna have to have a main service, largely, maybe, you know, talking about, maybe it's a 12-inch line on one side of the road, and you tee off of it to go to
I understand. All
smaller
right.
lines to reach the properties on the other side.
Okay.
And that's what I'm talking about, is those crossings. If we could identify where they should go, then they could get in and avoid the need for horizontal drilling.
So you could actually do the crossings in advance and deal with the major service lines later.
I see.
At least if you get them in now, you don't have to deal with doing a jacking underneath the road or trying to open up a state highway and everything that's going to be associated with that, which is not pretty.
I have another question.
No.
So what are the next steps exactly here? Because I'm hearing a couple things. I know the study,
The
which
steps are basically asking the
hold on a
council
second.
authorization to proceed.
All right,
with
yeah,
our-
because I hear the study, and then are you also looking for the stackings, or is that part of the study? They're all one and the same?
No, the initiative that we're
Sorry, it's just
discussing
like-
tonight is simply to go forward with an RFP for consulting services for a TIF district, which is only to address the capitalization of a project. That's the only
Okay.
thing that we're looking for. Now, what you can do, and in fact, I've seen in some of the RFPs that I've looked at over the past several days, is they've not only done the TIF feasibility, but they've also done an economic impact study. And I had actually talked to Gary about that and saying, can we project what the economic impact would be from the development of that corridor for the state as a way to get the state's attention as to why this is important. It's not just a local economic development issue. This is a statewide economic, no different than Quonset Point. It's the same thing. But what we're talking about tonight is only to deal with the TIF side of the equation. That's it.
I actually think that this type of project is long overdue. I think we've had this money sitting there forever and nobody's been able to touch it. I know when I was on the budget committee, I agree with Mr. Byron. It came up and nobody had any records. Nobody knew of anything, how to access it, if the account was even still active. So I think that needs to be determined first, where that money is and how to access it. But I actually do think it's a good use of funds. I know we've been talking about 146 forever, it seems like. And I do agree that I think you would almost want to do the economic impact study because that might be the lynch point to be able to either get state or federal funding. And if it looks favorable, I'm assuming you're going to come back and ask for a resolution to the state and or federal delegation to help push grant funding. I think it's in a situation where we don't know, it's all speculation regardless of how you look at it, but at least we would have some numbers behind it to say, how does it look?
If I could also just do a footnote on this, because the question was raised prior to this stage, both to the town administrator and the finance director. I'd be more than happy to work with you. I know the cities and towns that run revolving loan funds. I know where the original monies for this revolving loan fund came from. It was a small cities grant. And I know that that small cities grant no longer applies. The town can use the funds for whatever it wants as long as it's associated with economic development. It doesn't have to be a loan program. And quite frankly, the loan programs that have been administered by cities and towns and the state have had very little interest in them, in large part because up until now, capital sources were very cheap. So there was no compelling interest to go to those programs.
Okay, so I'm glad you brought up that we're talking actually 2 or 3 different things, right? We're talking about giving the okay to do the RFPs, right?
That's it.
Yeah.
And then we were told by Mr. Izovsky that he spoke to the chair of the Water Commission in Lincoln and the Water Resources Board, and there's an urgency to do a lateral. So, to me, those are 2 separate entities, and we can only vote on one.
Which is the only ones up before you right now is the TIF. Can I sit down?
Thank
It's
you.
past my bedtime.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I sit down before I fall down?
Does anyone have any other questions?
This feels positive.
Anyone want to make a motion?
So I'll make a motion to approve the authorization of well, approve the authorization to have would it be this question for the solicitor, would it be the plan of the craft, the RFP?
The RFP,
RFP, I guess in coordination with Mr. Gibson
But then
offered
they
his
have the
services,
study.
so
Okay, so then I will authorize
the planner to,
the planner to craft an RFP
in the TIF district.
for the
economic
services
TIF,
to
was it
identify a
TIF?
TIF
In the
district
TIF.
and to authorize
Not to exceed.
not to exceed the enterprise involving funds.
it's a TIF feasibility study.
All right.
Is
Yeah.
what it is. And we're not talking about an economic impact study yet, we're just talking about TIF feasibility.
Yeah, well, they call it,
We could provide it as an alt on the RFP.
Okay, so you just need the,
Town council, if they wanted to also have that included, you can make that decision.
all right, so then it would be to have the town planner craft an RFP
For a TIF
for the
feasibility
TIF feasibility
Yeah.
study.
And an alternate.
And an alternate for an economic
impact
development
Yeah.
impact study.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
That works. Thanks, David.
So the planner's working on it? I thought you were working.
I am gonna help the
Your
planner.
assistant.
Okay.
I'll draw up the draft, and I'll work with the town planner to refine it. And for public disclosure, I'm not getting paid. So I'm not a consultant on this project, I'm a resident helping out, that's it.
Okay.
thank you,
Thank you.
Lauren.
Thank you.
All right, so we have a motion, right?
Mhm.
Do we,
Is it not to exceed?
Oh, funding for this would not to exceed the amount in the enterprise fund, revolving fund, what that's called.
Yeah,
new business revolving?
Yeah, new business revolving fund.
All right, we have a motion. Is there a second?
second.
We have a second. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Biragad.
Yes.
Ms. Hamilton.
Yes.
Mrs. O'Hara.
Yes.
Mr. Ogier.
Yes.
Ms. Alves.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
All right, everyone else is council here. Okay.
So she can go home.
Oh, the taxes,
Yeah.
okay. Thank you, I didn't notice, I didn't know that's why she was here. Where is it? Okay. All right, the next one, we'll go down to discussion by council vote or other action on penalties / adjustments. Is that, MJ, are you?
What letter is that?
Hi.
Hi. Good to see you.
Good to see you. How can I help you?
You tell us.
Huh?
All right, so you're doing the penalty adjustments?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So, I think probably the reason you're here is because every week we keep asking about the first company that's on this list, that's on here for many
Do you
years.
have it?
You have it?
No, I don't.
Oh, sorry. Well, I didn't want to put the company on record, but
They've already been on the last 4 council meetings, what does
I
it
don't think we
matter?
talked about it. I don't think we said the company's name, did we?
Oh, yeah, we did.
Okay, so let's move on. So that company that's on here,
Mhm.
so I think we're all questioning why we would be doing these adjustments when we should be trying to get a lien or go after the company. I realize there's already a line for this company, but we should get in line with,
Other creditors? Yeah.
Okay, so Pitco Corporation has a long history,
yeah.
if I'm pronouncing it right. Father had an operation for many years, and there is no recourse in the town to go after any tangibles. There is nothing, I'm telling you right now. They cannot do their license, there's just no recourse. So then this gentleman sold his business to his son under a different name. Now, father went to jail because of federal and state taxes being withheld. We brought this company to our municipal collection agency, and their attorney said, don't pursue it because they already owe federal and state. You're going to be throwing money out to litigation, and you know you're third in line. You're not going to get anything. So basically that's it. Now it's in the son's hands, which starts a whole new chapter because it begins again. Tangible, the town does not have much recourse in recouping. I'll tell you that right now.
Why
Give me
is that?
questions.
Why?
Why? Because real estate, we do tax sales. Water, we do tax sales. I mean, excuse me, sewer, we do tax sales. Water, we do shut them off. Tangible, we have nothing. There's nothing. The ordinance has nothing. You can find them. You're going to find a business that already isn't paying, and that's just going to make the town look bad again, like less business friendly. And then how are you going to find somebody for not paying? What are you going to shut their operation hours down? Are you going to?
Can't you remove the license?
They don't pay a license. They don't pay a license.
So in the 1 year where we had $4,864,
Mm-hmm.
we just said, okay, we're not going after that?
What is
And there's
the
no
ordinance
recourse
to?
from the town?
What is the ordinance to make somebody get a license? Look in your ordinance book. It's to fine them. What are you going to fine them? I've talked to a couple of business owners, small business owners, and they say tangible taxes to them are a waste because they can not pay and still get, and this is just a small business, get me wrong, they still get their trash picked up, they still get their streets plowed, they still get all the town necessities, and they don't have to pay. And that's just a small business in a strip mall, per se. There's not a lot of avenue to go after tangible. There really is not, and that's been on my mind for many years. There's just not. There's no hardcore way to go after them. And as far as Pitco, I would listen to that municipal court attorney just because, why would we throw out money to go after them knowing we're third in line to get anything? It doesn't make sense.
Well, I
doesn't
think
make sense.
it depends on how much we're spending and how much we're owed, right? So if we're going to spend $300 for the attorney to submit something and we wait, it's not a bad thing if we can get $1,000 or $1,500 or $2,500.
Really? I don't think it's, really, I don't think it's
Well, 'cause
worth
they
it.
add up,
I mean, we're looking at like $20,000 plus
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
It's not small.
No.
No. Solicitor, is this something we can look at in the ordinance?
Well, we can do that. I think the issue is collectability. We're gonna come right back to collectability, and if you're not gonna get a municipal collection attorney willing to go do it, they make money on a percentage of the collections. So if they're not going to accept the case, we can look to see if there's any other kind of recourse that you can take on them, but as far as collectability, the collectability is an economic decision. You could pay the attorney to collect it no matter what, and they get nothing, you still pay the attorney. But the way the collection attorneys normally work is they take the cases and they get a percentage of the
Right.
collection. And my understanding, what I'm hearing between the lines, is your collection attorney won't take the case.
He said, in his opinion, don't do it.
Not worth it.
It's not worth it. We're not gonna, you're wasting money. As a town, you are throwing money away.
Is there any kind of penalties in any way that would hurt the business? Is there any way to get to them?
I think maybe if you don't let businesses get to this position,
Well, that's the problem, is how
Yeah.
we went this many years and. it's just
stop it
been-
ahead of time. A lot of times, though, businesses are tricky. They change names to another member, then it becomes a new corporation, and it builds up again, then they change names to again, and again, it just builds up and builds up. But those are the tricky people. Most times, I don't think businesses know that they have to let the assessor know they're closing their business. That's a big one. They don't know. So then that comes in with 2 years of abatements because the businesses don't know that's part of a requirement. And that's a simple thing that can be fixed.
Yeah, but I think it also comes down to if we have a business that's showing up for a couple of years, that it's kind of falls on us too to go out and find out if the business is closed, because we're talking like 16 years here.
Oh,
Like,
I
you
agree.
know,
They're
and,
tricky. They are tricky.
So if it's something that's, you know, after a couple of years, they're still showing up, then I think it's our due diligence to go out there and find out what's the status with the business, like, so we don't keep them on our roll and we just keep getting all these adjustments, but I
Maybe
think that's
something has to be
that
put in the
obviously
ordinance
has to be
then
done.
further.
Absolutely.
May I ask a question?
Sure.
You mentioned, don't let it get that far, but it sounds like there's no way to stop it from getting that far, right?
Unless, you guys want to put something in place. But yeah, basically not, because they're tricky. They know how to play the system, basically, is what they're doing.
But I still
I
don't
know.
think it's falling on the council. I think it has
No.
to be like in the tax office, that if you see a business coming up for a couple of years and they're not paying that, it should bring a flag up and say, hey, why isn't this business paying? And
I don't think that's a report that's a parameter that exists within Vision,
Well,
at least as of right now.
So we just don't know if
Yeah,
somebody
but-
pays?
I'm
so
sorry.
how do you get?
So how do we know it
Yeah.
wasn't paid in 2009, 10, 11, 12,
I
13,
guess-
14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21?
MJ's been going back through old accounts manually to check. It's not something that she just,
what do you propose,
flag.
Kim?
No, I'm just saying, is there, like, I would think that you would have, like, basically an accounts receivable or to that effect, and you would see the businesses on it, so then as the new year comes up, you're gonna see like this company, and they're gonna be like, this year, all the way across, they're gonna have a balance, and then we're gonna know like, okay, well, after 2 years or so, if we have a balance for the same company, that it should like be a flag that maybe there's something going on with this business and it should be checked out,
And what do you do?
What?
And what do you do?
Well, we would have to find out if the business closed or what's going on with the business, like why aren't they paying?
We, as the collection department, we're not able to go after a lot of these companies prior to Cynthia coming in and bringing in Municipal Collection Agency.
Right.
Prior to that, we just were left,
There's no enforcement aspect of
there was, we were left hanging,
Right.
and Municipal Collection Agency has brought in a lot of funds.
So now that we're catching up on all these, so now going forward, that should be something we should be able to notice, right? Like if we have someone that's more than a couple of years, because they should be pretty much getting caught up, right? Because we've been adjusting off quite a few old ones.
The old ones are still out there, but the smaller ones, yeah. MCA is really helping up on that. Because they have a lot more threatening letters than I'm able to
Right.
produce.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and they got the backing of legal, yeah.
Yes.
So I would ask the administrator to work with the finance director and develop a policy that we can at least provide everyone in that office with, so that they know what the expectation is, so that they don't let something go for years.
but that's the problem is we can have a policy, but how do I implement that?
How do you enforce things?
How do I track it? How do I enforce it?
Well, I mean, it's the expectation of the person in that office that they're gonna follow your policy.
Okay, but Paulette, so a business doesn't pay for 5 years.
But that should not be the case.
Right, but the problem with that is how I don't have a report that just sends MJ a red flag that says, hey, these guys didn't pay, A. B, they didn't pay for 5 years. What do you want me to do?
But I think
so
Kim,
if
I think the
don't pay my
president's, wait, hold on a
taxes-
second, Paul. I think the president's idea makes a lot of sense. You know that they owe a tangible, and now I know the state law changed. So
Yeah,
every
that's-
business is going to be the same. But
Yeah.
for the ones where you do have to pay tangibles, you know that they owe a tangible. So
Okay.
if after 2 years or 3 years, whatever time period it's determined, you don't have, I mean, ideally it should be every year, but you haven't had a tangible come in, I would imagine you would want to visit that business, or then if say, hey, it's going to MCA.
Right. So I get the preventative force that we're trying to do, but
I just don't want to see the message that's out there, and I said this at the last meeting, that it's okay not to pay a tangible, because
is
that
not,
is now
right.
coming back to the residential side, to make up that lost revenue.
That's right.
And the message I keep hearing is there's nothing we can do. It's $5,000, oh well. And it's not to anybody's fault, but I think we need to fix that.
Right.
So that we don't end up in that situation.
So
But
Doug, how do you want to fix it?
I think that if they don't pay their tangible,
Mhm.
it gets forwarded to the collection agency after a visit or two
Yeah.
and say, hey, we're trying to work with you, just like a zoning issue, just like anything else. I'm not
But
a
that's
tax
not up
person.
to
It's
us.
not my role to determine
Right.
that,
That's the administrator's role.
but I
And
think
then-
it needs to be figured out.
Yeah, but you're
Because
not
we can't
following this
keep-
to the next, what, you're not following it further enough down the line like she is. She's saying, all right, you do all that, and then they don't pay.
Then
What
it
do you
goes
do?
to the collection agency.
Or what do you do if the collection agency doesn't collect it?
Then I think that that's up to how the town
what the-
departments want to handle it.
Can
That's
you
not the
pull
council's role.
licenses or anything else?
I hand them off to the collection agency after 2 years, even though it's continuing on. But that's when, considering this company, their lawyer says
Yeah.
they
This is-
they're in debt beyond, you're
this
not going to
is-
get anything.
This is one of the only I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, MJ, this is the only company that we've had that's in recent years that we're writing off. Any other company that we're writing off are 10 years beyond because we can't collect them. So this is the first and only time, and just because it's a red flag company that we're zooming in on it, but, and I get it's 20 grand, but this is the first time we've ever presented 2021 as close of a year to today.
So what happens though if it goes to the collection agency and they don't pay?
That's what, nothing. That's the problem.
So
That's what
I'm
we're
going to
trying
ask
to
the
tell
solicitor a
you.
question, and I know he probably doesn't have the answer, so I want him to research it. Are there any legal grounds that the town has at that point to do anything? I'm not looking to say like,
The only thing, again, it depends
I don't want this
on
to be
when-
an anti-business
I don't have an
conversation.
answer,
It's going
because
down that
they
path.
don't get a license, huh? They don't get a license in town, this kind of business?
A lot of businesses do not.
That's the.
So you don't need a license to
I know like the
open?
food, like restaurant businesses and beverages, a lot of towns will not allow them to get a food and beverage license
Every business needs a license.
until
Boom.
they
They don't pay,
transfer.
they get their license taken away.
Until
so when
they-
their license renews every year, there's nothing we can do to say, pay
They
your
don't get a
license, or you don't get
Doug.
it,
There's no
right?
license.
There's no license.
no license.
Only certain businesses do. Pitco doesn't have a
I was given the
license.
example of
So
restaurants.
some towns-
What restaurants do is when a restaurant transfers and they try to do this, they'll try to change the names.
Yeah.
And the town or the city will say, it doesn't matter what name it is, until these
Yeah.
are paid, we won't allow that transfer.
And
of
a
the license.
restaurant also needs the liquor license or
Yeah,
the
that's right.
healthcare,
And
so
that- and
they
we
have
have
an
those.
incentive to
Right.
pay it.
Right, license. It's a
So
license.
that's
We
the
don't have
state
a-
issue, not the town.
So why
They
don't we
don't-
just fix the ordinance to say, you need a license?
Boom. That's where, that's what we.
Am I missing
well,
something?
That's the answer that we needed.
How do you enforce it, Doug?
Well,
Right.
that- yeah, I mean.
Right, I'm
But
not
that's not
disagreeing
up-
with you, I'm
that's
just trying to
not
figure out
for-
why.
Right, that's just
No,
not up
but
for
yeah,
me to
work
decide.
with
Say you need a license,
Yeah.
that's all.
Right.
Like,
If
yeah,
they
we're
don't do
we're
it, you just
asking
walk
you,
them down.
because that's
I
your
don't, right, but it's not for me to decide whether that should be pushed through. I can
No,
work
those
with the
You
solicitor.
can give suggestions, so then we can go forward and, try and work with the solicitor so we can fix the ordinance and do what we need to do, because, yes, you can say, all right, this is the first one that maybe has gone back this many years, but I'm sure if we pulled some, there's still quite a few that there's a lot of money that we've been pushing through. I mean, we're over $100,000 and we're only in February, so.
Well,
But-
we're on par with
Yeah.
where we're at. We're very much on par with.
Before
in terms of
Cynthia
writing off.
came,
But
excuse
still,
me,
it's
but
$100,000.
No, I agree. Yeah.
But before Cynthia
Capital
came, the collection department was not allowed to clean up receivables. So we had a lot of baggage that
Makes
stayed out there.
No sense to me.
So
No sense to
Yeah.
me.
before Cynthia came,
No, I know, she did a lot of changes, which is
Yeah,
great. And
so-
now this is what's happening, is.
well, it's coming
is-
to the forefront, yeah.
Right.
Right.
So otherwise, it would have been sat out there, and it makes our receivables look very high, but uncollectible.
So you bring up a good point. So now you know what your receivables are, so that should be, and I'm just asking, I don't know. So you bring up your receivables and you say they're high, so you must know, how do your receivables, are they by years, or how are they aged when you look at them? Because does it stand out that you have like some that are like 5 years out? Like, how do your receivables come out?
I don't, as the collection department, I don't run receivables like that. I could. It's never been part of my job set, but
No,
I
just like-
could.
Like, if you look at
Mhm.
them, like, what does your report look like? Does it have, like, certain years, or is it just alphabetical, and this is the current year, or?
I would think it'd be by account number, but yeah, it would be
Yeah.
by year.
So is there a way to filter it to, numerous years out, and?
We could, but again, what does that tell us?
Right, it's not something you were ever told to do, so
No.
that
We
could be
could do it,
another,
but-
another piece of it is that we run a receivable report that goes out so many years, and not just looking at 1 year.
I brought this up to bring to municipal court many years ago, and I had it all approved by the town solicitor, but then it went back to the ordinance of how you're gonna enforce it. You bring it to the municipal court, you're gonna fine them, but they can't pay their taxes. How are you gonna fine them? And then you get that bad business reputation in town.
But I don't think it's,
It's not a bad
I think it's
business,
not a bad
it's
business
smart
thing. I think
business.
the idea that you can just open a business without a license. I
Oh, no,
mean,
they'll-
that issue in itself, it needs some resolving, because I'm assuming that also opens up issues to zoning and other areas that could probably be a little more under the purview of the town.
First year,
So I think that might be the enforceability
Food truck,
piece,
you have to get a
is to
license.
say, you want a license, you have to pay your taxes, just like we all pay our
everything has
taxes,
to
like
be up to
everything
date,
else.
yeah.
Everything has to be up to date. I'm assuming they're going through, if they need state and
Mhm.
federal, they're not saying to the state and federal government, sorry.
So when it comes
So I think
across.
we should look at how we handle licenses in this town, and I don't think that's
Yep.
probably out of the realm of what other cities and towns do.
Well, when it comes across my desk to approve a license and they haven't paid, I deny them.
Perfect.
Yeah,
They're
there we
still
go.
open.
Problem solved.
They still operate. What's the point? They still operate.
Can't we just find out make some phone calls, see what other towns are doing? That's simple, right? That's all.
That's
that's
not
what we need to
something
do first.
we should be doing, right.
We gotta wait for open forum. Can we, just out of curiosity, can we run an aging report for many years out to see if there's anything else out there?
I don't know if Vision already has we would have to reach out to Vision to create the ability to run that report, if it doesn't
would be
already
worth
exist.
If they charge
I
us
can
to
help you with
create a
that.
report.
Yeah, I would say that might be.
I don't
one.
think they shouldn't charge us for it, but yeah, if it doesn't already exist, we can run it.
I mean,
Mhm.
first
Or we
of all,
can have
that
them
would
do it.
make your job a lot easier, because it would already be there for you, instead of you doing it manually.
It
Like,
shows
so this company would come out and it would say, okay, well,
yeah.
say you only pick 8 years, they got them all 8 years, now you're gonna filter it for 15 years, and you still
Yeah.
see it going, like,
Yeah.
now you're not gonna have to do this manual, because it's all gonna be right there in an Excel, and you download it, and there it is.
Yeah. No, it definitely shows the culprits. I can do
Yeah.
that.
Okay.
I can work with
Perfect.
Tony definitely on that. That's easy.
We're gonna be knocking on some doors.
All right, so what is the council's decision on this first company?
We're gonna set up.
I mean, can we go to another collections? Can we use a different collections person to see if?
It won't help.
I don't know if another collection's gonna make any difference. They're making determinations on collectability. That's what's going on. This firm is assessing the collectability, and they're saying, well, the person's got $100,000 in federal taxes, $50,000 in state taxes, and they're not paying them. I mean, I assume, I don't know this, I'm hearing this for the first time tonight, but what I'm hearing is, an uncollectible debt is what I'm hearing.
You're third in
They're just
line.
not going to bankruptcy court because it's the name of a business and they're not personally liable for it.
MCA knows what they're, has definitely dealt with something like this before, so they've assessed the win-loss ratio on this.
So all business should have licenses.
Yeah,
So
that's
I would
something we'll work
suggest
on.
we,
That's it.
just keep it on the
I've
books right now until maybe we'll come up with something, decide something down the road instead of wiping it out right now.
Can we put a lien on them? Can we just put a lien on them, so,
On
will it?
what?
On what?
On what?
On the tangible, on the property, I mean.
It's been sold.
The
It's been
tangible's
sold.
not there.
It's been sold to a new owner.
What I'm
It's
hearing
been
is the
sold to his
tangible's
son.
not there.
He doesn't own anything, this person, this Pitco Corp. It's been sold. So
Yeah.
there's no lien.
Right, there's no assets.
I mean, so when
That's
hurt
the
to put a
choice.
lien, and, I mean, you never know what he has, I mean, there could be other things out there. I don't know.
I don't know, I mean, again, we're just throwing things in the air here. I mean,
Right, I mean, because it's a lot of money,
I just want you to know, lien on an asset that's enforceable is a lien that you establish at the time that you grant, you know.
When
you
it was
grant.
sold to his son.
Well, I don't,
That's
I don't
what
know the
it should've been
particulars,
done.
but that, that becomes very difficult. And, whether you have the exact list of assets, and that is not something that's easily done. And you're talking about have a lien. You gotta win a judgment first. You gotta go to court and win a judgment. You don't just automatically get a lien on things. I mean, there's more complicated things than this. I can't believe this collection firm is ignoring those kinds of options if they exist, but we can look into it. We can look into it. I'm not saying we won't, but you don't throw things around like it's not as simple as this.
Well, I think we're just asking what our
No, I
choices
get it.
are,
I just you don't want to leave the public to believe that we can just magically go put liens on assets that are gone.
Okay, well then, I think that what we should do is hold on, as Councilor Biergard said, and try to looking into a different agency and look at other towns and cities and how they do that. How do they handle it? And then get back to us. That's my motion.
Keep it on the books.
Keep it on the books.
Okay, how about the rest of them?
God bless you.
So do you want to approve everything less that company? I know
I'd
the
wait,
others are
I would
old.
wait.
Yeah, just wait on the whole
I'd
thing.
wait, just
Okay.
do it
Yeah.
as a total package.
All right, so we're going to table the adjustments until we get follow-up. And Anthony, can you come up with a procedure and? All right. How about tax adjustments in the amount of $1,409.72?
Am I done?
Yeah, you're
I
good.
think so. Thank you, MJ.
I'll make a motion to approve the tax adjustments of $14,009.72.
1,400.
1,400, sorry, 14,000, I'm kidding. $1,409.72.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Biergard?
Yes.
Ms. Hamilton?
Yes.
Mrs. O'Hara?
Yes.
Mr. Ogier?
Yes.
Ms. Alves?
Yes. Thank you. All right, let's go back. All right, let's go back to old business, discussion by council vote or other action on status/progress report of specific items. First one is facilities manager.
No update, but hopefully next time we can have an update.
Grants.
Council people, you should have the grant update in the packet. Do you have any questions for me?
No, this is very helpful, the way it was rolled out. Thank you.
Thanks.
Anyone else have any questions on this? No? Halliwell Review Committee, there's.
No
I'm
updates
sorry.
at this time. You're good.
I forgot that you're.
Yeah, you're good.
Human Resource Manager, no update at this time. Municipal Building Review Task Force, payment of invoice 46922 to Tecton Architects.
I'll make a motion to approve the payment of invoice 46922 for the amount of $3,000.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Biergard?
Yes.
Ms. Hamilton?
Yes.
Mrs. O'Hara?
Yes.
Mr. Ogier?
Yes.
Ms. Alves?
Yes. And while we're talking about municipal building review, can we talk about putting another meeting on the books? Because we haven't met in a while since we approved all the repairs to go forward. So is there any time that we could get a new meeting?
What are you thinking?
Next Monday.
I can't do next week. How about the
13th to the 20th, I'm going to be out of the country.
yeah, I'm out of town. I am too.
Punta Cana.
Oh, nice.
13th to the 20th?
Don't forget your QR code.
Okay, so how about the
Talk to you
21st?
after. How about the 21st? 21st or 20, I can only do the 21st or or then the last week of February.
That's easier.
The last week of February would be better.
But,
How about like Wednesday, the 28th?
yeah, that'll work. Let's see
Does that
what we
work for
have.
everyone?
Yes,
6:45?
Yeah.
Yep.
so then I can have surgery.
Joanne, does
on time.
anyone meet in here on Wednesday nights? So why don't we can say that, and then if you come back and say we can't, then.
You wanna make it 6:45?
All right, so, so we'll do, so for now, we'll do February 28th at 6:45, and then unless you come back with someone else's meeting here. All right, perfect, thank you. Okay. Discussion by council vote or other action on appointment to town boards and commissions, Asset Management Corporation, Asset Management Commission, appointed by town council.
Madam President, I'll make a motion to approve, to nominate, I should say, Rourke Maynard to the Asset Management Commission. He had previously served on the Asset Management Commission. As per his application, I think he'd be a great addition to the committee.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Biragad.
Yes.
Ms. Hamilton.
Yes.
Mrs. O'Hara.
Yes.
Mr. Ogier.
Yes.
Ms. House.
Yes. Board of Canvassers, appointed by the town council.
Madam President, I'll make a motion to approve, I don't know why I keep saying that, to nominate Steve Byron to the Board of Canvassers for a term from 3/1/24 to 2/28/30.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Just for discussion, that's a continuation of his existing position, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
It's a long term, 6 years.
Yeah.
It does seem.
Gosh.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Biragad.
Yes.
Ms. Hamilton.
Yes.
Mrs. O'Hara.
Yes.
Mr. Ogier.
Yes.
Ms. House.
Yes. And then zoning board is also appointed by the town council.
Madam President,
Mhm.
I'd like to nominate Andre Gill.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? And that's as first alternate, correct? Roll call?
Mr. Biragad.
Yes.
Ms. Hamilton.
Yes.
Mrs. O'Hara.
Yes.
Mr. Ogier.
Yes.
Ms. House.
Yes. Discussion by council vote or other action on resolution establishing the Groundwater Protection Committee, GPC. Mr. Ogier?
All right, I'm going to keep this one quick since we, is that me or is that?
It's him.
I'm going to make this quick just because I know we approved this committee last week, but last time, but we had some questions about the membership. So before you tonight is the amended resolution to form a new groundwater protection committee. The membership, as you see, has been revised. It's one member from the town council, one member from the present planning board, one member of the present conservation or North Smithfield Land Trust, and also 5 members of the public shall be appointed by the town council. I know you may be thinking it's an 8-member board.
I know.
We usually do odd. I pushed back on the solicitor a little bit, but his recommendation is because this is an advisory board and all decisions would ultimately be up to the council, there's really no as much of a concern for an odd number.
So should we change the 7 up here to 8?
Yes. Yeah. Originally, we were going to propose an alternate structure, but.
Okay.
May I make a suggestion? Just like several other committees, though, that we appoint people to, we're appointing 5 people from the public. I think that's great. I would suggest that we appoint 4, and we have an administrator appointment, as we do in some of these other committees.
Want to make that a motion?
Would you, is that something that,
Oh, yeah, most of the communities are structured that way.
Why don't we make a motion to make sure it's that way?
Yeah, that's fine. I don't have a problem with that.
You sure?
Yeah. Would it be just a straight appointment, or would it a council approval like how we normally have it? Because I know some it's.
How we normally do it. So he would, administrative appointment with council approval. Is that typically,
We have it on a few, I think.
Both ways.
yeah, it does go both ways. No, just an administrative appointment. There's 5 members. There's 5 members from the public, I think.
Yeah, that's fine. I have no problem with it.
So you want me to make a motion to make that change?
Well, the first thing, I guess we should correct the language, that it would be 8 members in section 1.
Correct.
Yeah, that one, we should make a motion
So
to.
why don't you make a motion to make
So I'll
that-
make a motion to revise the first sentence in section 1 on the membership. Membership of the GPC shall consist of 8 members.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Biragad.
Yes.
Ms. Hamilton.
Yes.
Mrs. O'Hara.
Yes.
Mr. Ogier.
Yes.
Ms. Alves.
Yes.
And then we'll make a motion to adjust item D under membership.
To make it.
So make it 4 members of the public shall be appointed by the town council, and 1 member of the public shall be appointed by the.
Then we'll make, just
So
make,
it's
just
2
make
motions?
item
Okay.
D to
So
say
just
4 members.
D to 4, yep.
You don't want to leave it 5?
No.
Leave
It will be
5
5,
and-
but 1
yeah,
will
but
be,
That's what I'm saying.
so otherwise you're at 9. So you're saying make it a 9-member board?
No, I'm saying 5 members of the public shall be appointed, 4 by the town council and 1 by the town administrator.
Oh,
So
does
you
that,
leave
does
that.
that work? Yeah, let's just do that. Let's make it easier.
Leave it to 5.
Yeah, leave it at 5, but 4 will be appointed by the town council, 1 by the town administrator. Can we do it in one sentence?
No. If you're gonna do that,
Okay.
I want you to amend D to say 4
Fine.
members shall be appointed by the town.
So then D would be what we said originally,
And
4
E
members.
would be-
And then we'll add an item E.
D will say 1 member of the public shall be
How
appointed by the town.
confusing.
Yep.
Okay. Got
Got
it.
it?
Again, just to reiterate, the reason why we're making it even members, because this is an advisory board with no power. It can't stop anything. If it could stop anything, I would be saying you can never do that. You can't have something bottled up in a committee
Right.
and stop it from getting to the council. You can't do that. But this is an advisory committee, and this was originally intended just to take the other 8 that were already on the board and put them on this board. But since this occurred, there's only 7 being transferred over, is what I understand. So there is an open spot.
There
Which
is.
will be the administrative spot.
Right, that
Right.
open spot was Conservation and Land Trust, and we've had a vacancy.
But now it's gonna be, so,
Okay, you want to make a motion then?
did we make the motion?
So we
on
made the
D?
motion, but if not, I'll just make the motion on item D to change it to 4 members of the public to be appointed by the town
Second.
council.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Biragad.
Yes.
Ms. Hamilton.
Yes.
Mrs. O'Hara.
Yes.
Mr. Ogier.
Yes.
Ms. Alves.
Yes.
And then I'll make an item E, which would be 1 member of the public shall be appointed by the town administrator.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Biragad.
Yes.
Ms. Hamilton.
Yes.
Mrs. O'Hara.
Yes.
Mr. Ogier.
Yes.
Ms. Alves.
Yes.
Question, yes, no. Term.
Discussion by council vote or other action on appointments to the Groundwater Protection Committee, GPC, Mr. Ogier.
So,
There's gonna be one more amendment.
what?
Because the administrator's making an appointment, the
The paragraph
term,
below
the
it?
term of the administrator's appointment probably should be, would run concurrent with his term.
Shouldn't it all be 2 years, though? Because then you're gonna have 1 person for 4 years.
You can change it. 2 years and 2 years.
I mean, he could just reappoint his, or he or she could reappoint their person every 2 years. Just in case maybe,
I was just trying to make sure the language.
yeah,
was
no, I
cleaned
know,
up,
I
that's
agree
all.
with you, Paul, yeah.
I think as long as we understand that, so all members of the term will run for 2 years with the council, including his appointment.
Yeah.
And so then, when the new council comes in, theoretically, you'd make your 4 and he'd make his.
Just put it in open gov as a 2 years, or whatever this, on board as 2 years, and then
Right.
every time we get a reminder, we just
The
add
term of
it.
all
That's all.
members shall be coterminous with the council.
Yeah, let's
Yeah.
not, it's not overcomplicated.
I think that works,
That's good.
so we can leave it the way it is.
Okay.
Do we have to approve it as amended?
No, I think we're gonna leave it
We
as
already
is.
did. We did each one.
What is
You make
that?
that amendment? Yeah, now you need to approve this as amended.
All right, so now I'll make a motion to approve the resolution to establish the Groundwater Protection Committee as amended.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Biragad.
Yes.
Ms. Hamilton.
Yes.
Mrs. O'Hara.
Yes.
Mr. Ogier.
Yes.
Ms. Alves.
Yes. Okay, so now we're back to the
So
appointments. right?
now would be the appointments. So can I just list everybody and we can just do
And
this
where
in
they
one?
fit, and where they fit.
So in the current membership of the Water Supply Review Committee, the the planning board representative is Gary Pilati. Carol Drainville is a member of the public. Cynthia Roberts was a member of the public. Leanne Gillette was a member of the public. And Bob Gillette was a Conservation Commission member. Gail Burlingoff, I would ask that the council appoint her as a member of the public, which would still leave then the one spot open. And myself, obviously, yeah, as a council, sorry, myself included. So Gary Pilati is as the planning board member, Gail Burlingoff is a member of the public, Bob Gillette as a member of the Conservation Commission, Carol Drainville as a member of the public, Cynthia Roberts as a member of the public, Leanne Gillette as a member of the public, and myself as the town council member.
May I ask a question before we close this down? Can committees have two members, or should they, from the same family? I'm not saying it's not.
We went over this when we
Okay.
appointed.
It's nothing against them, but I didn't know what practice was way back, so.
Again, the board is advisory and has no power. I don't mean that to be negative. They have an extremely important role in giving advice to the council, but they don't make a decision that's binding.
Okay.
So it's just a matter of pulling together the people's ideas.
Okay, you need a second? Second?
So that's my motion, yeah.
Discussion?
And just for the record, that these board members, because this is being started at such a late time, term will start as of tonight and expire on
12/1, or whatever the
12/1
timeline
of
is.
2024.
It's essentially just replaces the water supply committee timeline.
That's what we're
That's all it is.
Right, so in discussion, so it's an all or nothing, right? So we're not picking individuals here, we're taking either the whole list, and we're not
Whole
pulling
list.
anybody out of it.
Whole list.
All right, well, for that reason, I'm gonna be a no.
So are there 7 right now?
There's 7, and there should be 1 spot available.
So is the TA making that appointment?
Yep, that's your appointment now.
Okay, but you'll have to do that another night,
Yeah.
because it's not on the agenda tonight.
So, because we had a member of the public there was the Conservation Commission, and then we had the Land Trust, and we had Paul Soers and Bob Gillette. That's what we amended the committee. So we just took away the alternate position and made it another member of the public. So we could advertise it and stuff like that as well.
Okay, so that was your motion?
That's my motion.
And I second.
Okay, motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Yeah, only because it's an all or nothing. I think there's some great members on there. I'm not opposed to all of them, but I'm gonna have to vote no on this.
All right, well, we didn't vote yet, so.
I'm just letting you know.
Is that it for discussion?
Go ahead.
Roll call?
Mr. Biragad.
No.
Ms. Hamilton.
Surprise. Yes.
Mrs. O'Hara.
Yes.
Mr. Ogier.
Yes.
Ms. Alves.
Yes.
And now, the final act is to dissolve the Water Supply Review Committee, but just for the record, in case people weren't listening to the last meeting, the new Groundwater Protection Committee is going to educate all age groups and stakeholders, residential and business, about the importance of protecting the groundwater resources, promote the public interest in understanding of groundwater protection, act as an advisory capacity to the town council in any matters related to groundwater, water supply, surface water, and the North Smithfield Water Supply Protection Overlay District provided in section 619 of the Code of Ordinances with any maps and plans, and perform any such duties and/or tasks required by the town council and the GPC with prior town council approval may be aided by the assistance of a consultant. So pretty much it's just a rebranding and includes a little more the whole town versus just the 619 section. So just wanted to put that back out there in case people weren't following along. So we would dissolve the water supply.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Biragad.
Yes.
Ms. Hamilton.
Yes.
Mrs. O'Hara.
Yes.
Mr. Ogier.
Yes.
Ms. Alves.
Yes.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Discussion by council vote or other action on protocols for grant requests. Mr. Biragad and Mrs. O'Hara.
Yeah, I put this on here for a couple of reasons. And I'm not going to mention any names because I'm not looking to start any trouble or point fingers at anybody. But if you go back to last March, when we were discussing the grant writer, the town administrator was given some grief over the fact that he went out and requested some grants without first running it by the council. So then the council said that in the future, if you're going to go for any grants, then you got to bring it before the council. Well, what's good for the goose is good for the gander, because there's a member, and I'm not, like I said, I'm not pointing fingers, I'm not looking to start any trouble, but there is a member of the council that's calling the grant company that, and making suggestions as far as the direction that they should possibly be going and looking for grants. I don't have a problem with that personally, but rules are rules, and those rules were made very clear last year. So we should establish protocols and how we're going to go forward with doing this, even if it requires us having a workshop or something. But if the rule's good for one, it's good for all. That's the reason why I put this on the agenda.
So that was me.
I wasn't even going to say anything.
No, it was me. I have nothing to hide. So there was a grant that came across my desk, and I sent it to the grant person and said, I had written a grant like that, exactly like that, a couple of years ago. And if there was anything I could do to assist in getting that grant written, I'd be happy to do that. So I didn't say you have to do it. I just said, there is this grant that I received, and if you'd like any help on how to do it, because I thought we were trying to all work together collaboratively. So I didn't say that you can't go to the council. I didn't say that you should, skip the administrator. I just said, hey, there's a grant, and if you think it'll work, good. And if you need help, because I've written the exact grant and I got it successfully, and I'd like to provide that for the town, let me know.
Well, I didn't have a problem originally, and I don't have a problem with what you did, but your rules, not mine.
What rules?
When you guys made the rules that in the future that.
All right, I think this is kind of,
It's
we're
not
not gonna do back and forth, but if we would like to have a workshop, that would be great, because I am gonna say that we did have a date planned, that we were gonna basically have a workshop with the whole town, with the grant writers, and then some people decided to go off and change that date. So everyone is kind of doing their own thing here right now, so maybe we should have a workshop so that we can all be on the same page and that we can work together, because that day, the 26th that we were supposed to do that, we were all going to be together. All the department heads had already said they were in, the grant writer was in, everyone was in, and then all of a sudden, it got changed to the 12th because 2 people decided to change. So why don't we pick a date that we can all get together and work on it, and let's figure out how we're going to do this so we can move forward and be successful. Because right now, we're just going like we're trying to pick and choose, and it's not working. So why don't we send out some dates and
introduced. I thought the administrator had said a couple of weeks ago we're going to be introduced, that you were going to have them come in to talk to us, introduce themselves.
So what had happened here, and there's actually an email from Kaylee who's trying to schedule this all up. Originally, it was for the 26th February for council members to come involved. Councilman Beauregard reached out to me and said, do we have to wait that long? I said, no, let's see what we can do. Finance director sent out an email to all involved saying, can we move this up? Kaylee came back from G&G saying, how about the 11th or the 12th? And the 11th or the 12th was now set up with the help of another staff member to schedule the employees, the staff people that would say, what do you want, sewer department? What do you want for a grant? Department of Public Works, police, fire, what do you want? That was the initial, so we could get set up, so the grant writers could meet the people that they would be working with day in and day out when they had a question. That's what that was for. Now, moving forward to the 26th was going to be when people were available to meet on the 26th. That was when this would have been all hashed out, and then the town council could come in and say, well, what about this? So day-to-day operations, a lot of people aren't available to work during the day-to-day. That was the idea behind this.
Oh, no, I was under the impression that they were just going to come in and introduce themselves to us at a council meeting.
Well, you're welcome to come on the 12th.
No, at a council meeting, That would be the appropriate thing. We've spent a lot of money on them. We're trying to, court them, trying to work collaboratively with them. I think we should all meet them at the same time.
Absolutely.
Just meet. We don't have to talk about anything. Just thank you for being here. If there's anything, here I am. I'm here to help you.
Council, come in on the 12th and say hello.
But that's not the point.
But it still should be, everyone should be able to meet these people. Yes, I did sign up.
Why don't you talk about that?
I did sign up for the 26th, just like all the other employees did, and they had a time set. It was like 3 o'clock. It was. And then all of a sudden, after the last meeting, it came out that, oh, no, we're changing it to the 12th.
Council President, did you not send an email to the finance director who was trying to set this all up, said any date after the 10th.
Yes, and 3 weeks later, it changed to the 12th. So I'm sorry, I'm very busy.
I don't think it was 3 weeks, but
My
okay.
schedule changes day to day. so-
Everybody's does.
Right, so to hold me to a date like weeks later, I'm sorry. I'm not sitting at home waiting for an email to come in and say, okay, now we're doing it on the 12th. Because I took the day out of work for the 26th to be here. I cleared my whole schedule, because that's the day it was gonna be. So now it's the 12th, and I don't know, I can't make it,
No,
but.
so
I don't even think I got an
I
email.
never received anything.
Yeah.
Any notice at all, so I don't
may
even
have
know what you're
did.
talking
Well,
about.
It may have been
This
missed,
was for
but-
the staff people to meet, so that they
Yeah.
could meet.
But I
The
do-
people that are doing the day-to-day hello, that's what that was for.
Well,
I do think, though, that they should come to a council meeting.
I
So
agree.
I would say if they're
Yes.
available for the next council meeting, they
Let
should
them
be
just
here.
come.
But, you know, I would think that just one simple solution in the interim here is that if any grants come up and they reach out, anybody reaches out directly, staff members included, was if they find a grant and they reach out directly and say, hey, this is what I want to apply for. If it involves the day-to-day, they just CC the administrator. And if it's a council and the council needs to get involved, I would imagine there's a match, and that conversation should happen before applying for a grant. Because what happens if the grant is great, but there's a $3 million match? We're gonna end up in a situation where maybe we can't go forward, and it's not gonna look great. So, and I also think that we could use some of these sessions where we have grants on the agenda, just to maybe to talk about if there were any new grant opportunities, or, you know, just repurpose that part of the agenda a little bit as well. But I think there's a bunch of ideas, but I agree, I think they need to come to a meeting, and we need to have some type of
Love to
workshop.
meet him. Love to meet him.
Are you coming, the 12th?
No. I was not informed, so I'm busy. That never came to me.
So do we want to have a workshop about these, the protocols, so that we can all agree on how it's going to work?
Either workshop or put it on the agenda for discussion.
Okay. So put it on the next agenda. Joanne, please.
Maybe we should have it on the agenda when they're here, so they hear it, they partake in the decision-making process, and we're all on the same page.
Like maybe they have a form that
Yeah,
they use
maybe
for
they-
other, other towns or whatever their process may be for other towns, maybe we can implement that here.
Yep, that's what I would.
Like the same item
Rather-
protocols for grant requests,
Yeah,
on the
when
agenda?
the town council meeting that they're here, like make that like a sub, paragraph of the agenda, you know what I mean?
Discussion
So
on
it's gonna be like meet, discussion, vote, or other action, and meet the, grant writers, and then, like B would be, protocols for submitting grants.
The other thing I'm thinking of is maybe I've seen other communities do it, maybe if people are available, is maybe we do it at 6 or something a little beforehand. Then it's a whole separate thing, and it's like a workshop. Then you go into the actual agenda, instead of it being buried in what appears to always be a long agenda.
It's a good idea.
That way it's only focused, and we're not feeling like we're rushing to talk about X, Y, Z afterwards. Just an idea. I'm just throwing out that, so, doesn't matter.
All right, we good on that one? We all set?
So Council Ogier, you're right there about a 6 o'clock meeting. Is that something that you wish to be considered, or what do?
I just threw it out there. I mean, we can always, I guess, it can be talked about, the scheduling after. It doesn't need to be decided tonight, but I was just throwing it out as another solution instead of, being buried in and if they can come earlier, maybe it's a way to get them here instead of them having to wait until 7 o'clock at night, but
Well, let's find out when they can come.
doesn't need to be decided tonight,
Let's
no.
find out when they can come.
Yeah.
Who's gonna find out if they can come?
So our next meeting would be on the 20th. We don't even know if they can come then, right?
Right. Are you here at that meeting?
I'm here at that meeting, yeah.
I'm like, who are they?
Are you here at that meeting, the 20th?
When is the,
Yeah.
the 20th?
No, if they can't, can we have Zoom, could they zoom in on that screen? Is that possible?
I think they could.
David, can they zoom in, the grant writers? Yeah?
Absolutely. Absolutely, they can. What Councilman Ogier is indicating, if it's one thing, not only can you have the meeting earlier, you also could just have the first part of the meeting be scheduled for that item as number one.
Like we do with executive session. like-
Right, just do it as number one, so you know they're gonna be number one at 6:40. Well, maybe do 6:30 or 6, because I know people, 6:45 seems to be a time, I'm available, but some people can't get here before 6:45.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's
Well, I know
difficult.
you're traveling from out of state, so I understand. Doesn't that satisfy your concern if they're number one on the agenda?
Yeah, it doesn't matter, as long as we know they're early, we're not rushing, that's all.
Yeah, I'll be back on the night of the 20th.
Oh, you're not here the 19th? Is it the 19th
No,
or
it's
the
the
20th?
20th.
20th?
Because it's
Oh, yeah,
President's Day.
yeah, so you're here the 20th?
Madam Clerk, our next meeting is
13th,
2:20.
Yes.
In the morning.
Thank you.
If everything
You
goes
think so?
according to
All right, so let's go to the next one, and, because that's all set, right? Discussion by council vote other action on approval of additional services from check base for town council minutes, time stamping. Joanne?
So this is for the town clerk's department. My request is to piggyback on our, what is it here? We have, I can't think of the word that I'm using. Our existing contract with Clerk Base. We have an opportunity to purchase this program called time stamping, which will help with our agendas tremendously, our agendas and council minutes. What it would do was the viewer can go on to the minutes for each agenda item. After the title is there, they can click on this little link and it brings them directly to that. So if you were watching this on YouTube, it would bring you directly to that particular item. I'm noticing that many of other towns and cities are using this. It's much more efficient. They're due to like the high volume of meetings that we're having and the length. Minutes are taking me a lot of time. I feel like I don't want to say wasting, but I'm utilizing a lot of time doing minutes. And if I can get this program, I could make it very simple where I did attach a draft of one. It would be very similar to that, and we could always tweak it if we didn't like the way it was working. But it would show the motions, who would second, whoever, the ayes, the nays, and the yay. But then the actual description of all of the information would be pretty much by clicking on that link, as opposed to me typing it. To me, this would be more accurate. It would be easier for council also, trying to approve all the minutes and make corrections. So it's definitely less room for error, and the public would see exactly what was said, instead of me trying to get the full story, because it's really difficult to do that.
It's better.
It would be, you'd go directly to the link and you watch. If you want to watch this discussion, then this is what you click on, and it brings you directly to that. So it's $2,400 a year, but it would be added to
Well
what we
spent.
have on Clerk Base right now. And I just can imagine all the things I could get done if I was not typing minutes, so.
Okay, make a
my
motion to
request
approve
is-
the $2,400 to Clerk Base.
Second.
Second.
So the minutes get done right through here? Like through, how does it get to here?
There's a process we have to go through the training still, but what I would do is I'm still filling in the blanks on the minutes, and once I fill them in, I show them, it's kind of like the way that we're doing the linking for our documents for the agenda. They'll go on and they'll look where my minutes, and if we move things around, I change the description of the heading, and they look for that description, and then they timestamp it, as opposed to if someone wants to go onto the website and look for something, you keep fast forwarding to try to find it, it'll bring you directly to the beginning of that topic. So I think it's great. I think many towns and cities have been using this for quite a few years. We're kind of in the dinosaur ages with these things, but we definitely need to get on board with this, so.
How long is the training for this?
Tammy, did they tell you, like, couple hours, but.
Oh, it's not, so you'll be up and using it right away? pretty
Yes,
much?
but
Okay.
we have to get the template ready, so it may not be as quickly as we can. We have to find time to do the template, but,
Okay.
yeah,
Sounds good.
so.
All right, we already have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Biragad.
Yes.
Ms. Hamilton.
Yes.
Ms. O'Hara.
Yes.
Mr. Ogier.
Yes.
Ms. Alves.
Yes. And then, do we have to vote on the moving of the funds, or, because it's not on the agenda, is it?
Yeah, it is.
Oh, okay.
Do we need a signature?
Oh, do you need a signature to sign the contract?
Yes, I'm sorry. Didn't mention that. Well, certainly authorization to pay, however that is.
So it says it has to be approved by council, I guess it's signed by you, right, Joanne?
Yes.
So we're authorizing you to sign it?
Okay.
So I'll make the motion to authorize the town clerk to sign the contract for
Second.
Cliff Base.
Yeah, just signing it, right?
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Biragad.
Yes.
Ms. Hamilton.
Yes.
Mrs. O'Hara.
Yes.
Mr. Ogier.
Yes.
Ms. Alves.
Yes.
So the next part is the reclassification.
Yeah, reclassification reserves for funds to purchase time stamping program from Clerk Base.
So what I would like to do, because we did not put this in the budget for the year, and if we can possibly get this done before July 1st, I would like to move forward. So I spoke with the finance director, and he said that we did have funds from the 2018 elections return, and it was 20,000 still in that fund, or it was? Yes. But it was, I think we had about 20,000 in there, so I thought this would be a good,
So you're reclassing 2,400 out of there?
yes.
Okay, make a motion to approve the reclassification of $2,400 reserves from a line item for, what was it again?
It was from
2018
the
election expense.
2018,
Election?
yeah.
Thank you.
Election reserve, yes.
Thank you.
Huh?
They said 1,500. Okay.
Okay,
Difference.
that's my motion.
So
Second.
there's 5,800 in that line item? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
We have a motion, a second. Any further discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Biragad.
Yes.
Ms. Hamilton.
Yes.
Mrs. O'Hara.
Yes.
Mr. Ogier.
Yes.
Ms. Alves.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Discussion by council vote or other action on profit and loss report Q2 FY 2024.
First two pages of revenue. Nine pages after that is all expenses, and then as requested, and the summary.
Can you use the mic, please? Thank you.
First two pages, revenue, next 9 pages, expenses, last 2 pages, summarized P&L. Took me forever to make the summarized version, and they don't give it to me easy.
So I'm assuming if this is Q2, so this is as of 12/31?
Correct. With the second P&L of the year.
So there's quite a few line items that are already over budget. How are we watching that so that we're not in a huge hole at the end of the year?
Which ones?
So
Some of them have encumbrances. Some of the ones you might be referring to have encumbrances, which the reason they have encumbrances is because they pull out a blanket PO and they pull from it instead of having to constantly get a PO number for something. Say if it's like for trees that are down or for, mostly it's emergency purposes and for efficiency. And then we just pull from that PO every time. So that's why it looks like it's over, but it's not. We just keep track of, Marie and I keep track of what's being pulled from that PO over time. And I keep up with every department head, water and sewer, DPW, police, fire. I keep up with, every month or so, of how much they're pulling from those. On the day-to-day, it keeps efficient. Adds extra work sometimes, but.
All right, so dues and subscriptions and administration is, it's over like $63, but it's only 6 months in, so how will we,
That's because there was, I can look it up, but there was one-time charges on it. It was the league, and then one more other one, but they came back with what they charged us was more than what we predicted it to be. So, a lot of the dues and subscriptions and maintenance fees are front-end heavy. So instead of it being halfway through, or, you know, we still have half the funds, they might be less than that because it's a one-time charge earlier in the year of the fiscal year.
So,
So I just have one question. So does that work the same way for the software and licenses for the tax assessor?
Yeah, yeah, a lot of it's front-end loaded.
So we only have like a $1,500 is all we're gonna pay for the rest?
Yeah, that's all we should really need for the remaining of any software and licenses in the assessors. We haven't had any, you know, outside, any expenses that are out of the ordinary for them. That's the way it is every year. A lot of our, like I said, a lot of our software and licenses, maintenance agreements, they're front-end heavy.
So longevity, that's paid out in December, right, once a year?
It's paid out depending on the person's, it's not every December, it's paid out on the person's start date. So some of them, yeah, a lot of them were in December, but we still have some left over for the remainder of the year, yeah. So.
I mean, some departments, I mean,
They're gonna be over.
it looks like if they were all paid out in December that they're right on, but there's, yeah, there's some that's over, and there's one that has a heavy budget.
Which one?
Well, the police.
Yeah, police always has a pretty big longevity.
Yeah, but it's
expense.
only like a third of it has been used, so do we know if this is just over budgeted, or are we gonna?
No, it's tracked almost to the penny for longevity. We put in the formula within the budget, the Excel sheet, based on the contract, based on a bunch of other factors, you know, their pay increase, how many years, and we input that and we tally it up, and that's what we put in for the budget, and that's what we run off of.
so in that same department, there's a clothing allowance on item, oh, let's see, line, well, it's 50250, I don't know if that is.
Yeah, 50250.
For 53.2, and 51.3 has already been expended, is that how, am I reading it correctly?
Yeah, so they only have a certain amount of allowance. Once they run through it, they can't request any more. So they can, the first 30 days of the fiscal year, all the police can ask for, you know, I think it's $600 if I remember correctly, for their clothing allowance.
Right, but if they.
But once they're done, they're done.
Get hurt, if they get torn, if they get, you know, whatever, they.
That's a
you can't let 'em-
mitigating circumstance, but,
Right.
you know.
But I mean, they can ask for more, right?
Once they've reached out once they've capped out at their clothing allowance, they can't,
No.
I mean, I haven't run into a situation like that, so
Okay.
I can't give you an example, but it is tracked where they can't ask for more than what they are allotted.
So the Historic District Commission,
me too.
I'm sorry,
Yeah, no, that's.
they're over $5,000, what is that?
Yeah, that's a reclass issue.
Didn't they apply for a grant?
Yes, that's what it was, thank you. I know that yeah, so we're waiting on 5,000 to come back for a grant.
Match, right, with the state?
Yeah, thank you. I was like, there's no reason why they should be over.
So in dispatch, there was no longevity budgeted, but we had expense there.
Yeah. I'll have to look into that. That might have been an issue with the Excel itself. No, that wouldn't have been, and through that wouldn't have been through that.
What is the credit in the highway fuel?
So, when we allocate the fuel cost, there was Jerian was allocating too much to a different department and not enough to DPW, and so we obviously get a credit for some of our fuel from school and stuff. So we've already talked with DPW and police and how we're gonna fix that for the rest of the year. So we're gonna fix the reallocation of what's going forward. We're gonna put it heavier on DPW for the rest of the year, or until it's even.
I don't understand, I'm sorry.
So whenever we get charged for fuel, Jerian has to go in and split the cost up between whoever used it. I think a couple months, Jerian had mistakenly put it heavier on police. I forgot which department, but I'm pretty sure it was police. And every month, we also get a refund or check from the school to go against that, to pay for some of that. And basically, how much we were charging is less than what we were getting from the school. So that's why there's a credit, as of right now.
So the police are fine?
Everyone's fine. Everyone's fine. We're just gonna even it out by charging more to the DPW until we're break even again. Yeah.
Okay, because I saw the fuel line for the police was only at 34%. So
Yeah,
it didn't
yeah.
seem like it was over.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it was just an allocation issue. We were putting too much. It was like a percentage. That's all.
So shouldn't some other shouldn't some other
Should be
lines be
offset somewhere.
credited?
Offset
Like,
it,
shouldn't,
right.
I mean, where's the offset coming from?
What do you mean?
Well,
Well, it should be
if
higher
you're gonna
somewhere else,
reclass
right?
something, or you're gonna change an allocation, where's the?
We're going forward. Going forward, we're gonna charge more to DPW.
Yeah, but I think, I don't mean to, sorry, don't mean to interrupt.
So you're saying some lines are overstated?
They're just being charged more than what they should have been. Right.
So what ones, you're saying it's schools?
No, school is the one that is being, is refunding us for the gas.
Okay.
Right. So I'm pretty sure there's water and sewer, there's police, DPW, there's, I think there's parks. I could be wrong about Parks and Rec.
Okay.
All right. I understand that.
So, can I ask a quick question? Do you meet with department heads on a monthly basis, like a year to date kind of thing, as to where they are with their budgets, so that we don't get into a situation where we're in the third quarter and then all of a sudden we're scrambling around?
No, I don't think that's ever been needed in prior years. I don't think it's, and if we ever have that issue, we look for funds. We budget transfer from things that have extra funds. I don't think combined department heads nor I have time for that.
So
on a monthly basis, for sure.
You don't touch base with them to
We send out the Jerian sends out monthly reports
year
every
over
month.
year?
Yeah, she sends out every month to every department head of their budget, and so far that's worked perfectly fine. We haven't, obviously there's been, prior to me being here, there's been departments that have gone over budget as a whole, but we've already talked about that in the past.
What about the overtime in finance?
We had, Karen had to do because of the New Year's Day, because of where it fell, she had to do the payroll from home because ADP only accepts the payroll at a certain time on Tuesday. And if we have a Monday holiday, she doesn't have enough time to get that in because police, they do payroll until midnight. Highway, they work until I think 3 on Fridays, which is past when we work. So they're all still completing their timesheets. And if we have Monday off, I think ADP's time, I think it's, if I remember her telling me correctly, it was 10 a.m. So he doesn't have enough time to go through all these timesheets, make sure they're all correct, make the corrections, submit it, have me sign it still, have him sign it, and then still send it back. There's not enough time. So she does it over the weekend, so in a situation like that. That's why there was overtime. It's usually only for holidays.
So this has to be more than one holiday, right?
This is accumulation of more than one Monday holiday, yeah.
So are we figuring out someone else that can help
I'm gonna,
out with
I wanna
payroll?
see if there is a way I can eventually, again, she's gonna teach me everything, her procedure of what she does, so that I can duplicate that, so that we can mitigate that cost.
And have you ever talked to ADP to see if the other communities have a similar situation? They don't, on a holiday, make an arrangement for a date
They
the
said that.
following day or later in that day, you know?
Yeah, they said that the other communities will, just, which I'm not a huge fan of, because then we can get into legal issues, but they'll assume the person did the shift
Right.
that they were scheduled for.
Right, yeah.
And then make the corrections on the back
Correct.
end for basically
following.
pay them or deduct them for the following week,
Yeah.
which ends up creating even more work that we have to go back and check, which opens us up to possible issues with payroll.
What day
So
does the pay period end?
every Saturday, I think it ends on a Saturday, if I remember correctly. I just sat down with ADP not too long ago to talk about this stuff, to see if there was ways I had a business analyst come in and evaluate our books and stuff like that, and basically they said that if you wanted us to do anything, you're gonna have to move your pay date, and that's a big push to ask for contracts.
When's the payday now?
But if, but on a holiday week, if the holiday's on a Monday and our pay date is on a
It's a Friday,
Saturday-
sorry.
Friday?
Yeah, yeah.
So-
They wanted to push us, no, we pay everybody on Thursday. Yeah, everybody gets paid Thursday, but they wanted us to push it to Friday.
Yeah, but I know some places, like, and maybe it's not a municipal thing, but like, you know, outside of the municipal and ADP, like, you know, like your manager will usually approve your payroll by like 10 a.m. even on a holiday week, and then it's not due usually to ADP until like 2, 4. It has to be that day, but it's much later after it's reviewed by like a finance and a payroll department. So I'm kind of shocked it has to be in at 10 a.m. to
I could
ADP.
double check that number. It's either 10 or 1 a.m. or 10 or 1 p.m. But either way, even with it being 1 p.m., it's still a close call for, because a lot of time, almost every week, she has to go back and correct a ton of people's timesheets from them being wrong, putting in the wrong time, whatever the case may be, from all the different departments. And then once she gets those back, then she still has to put them in, print it all out. I have to go through each person, approve each person, then I have to give it to him to do the same thing, and then she takes it and then finalizes it.
Do we, I apologize if I don't know this, do we use time and attendance through ADP?
What was that?
Time and attendance, like electronic time card?
That was another thing I had talked to them about, and it's, no, we don't. It would be a big haul to even implement that.
Because
Not saying it's impossible, but
how does someone know if the employee entered the time
correctly?
Or
Right, you
incorrect.
just said like if they entered time incorrectly, it's adjusted. I'm just curious.
Your department head has to.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering.
Your direct
Might be
supervisor.
department
Yeah,
head.
probably.
Yeah,
Huh.
your direct supervisor has to
Might be
approve
worth
it.
looking into.
I, like I said, I had it was actually just this, I think it was this week or last week, I don't remember, with ADP, and I had a business analyst, it was for free, but I had them go through all of our contracts. I gave them our contracts, they read everything, a bunch of stuff, and their solution was to, basically, if you can't move your pay date from Thursday to Friday, which again is a big ask with the contracts, with the union, there's really not much we can do.
I'm sorry, I get paid on a Thursday and I work in a nonprofit with ADP, so I don't see how it's much of why ADP would push back so much. I think we need to push back to ADP, and that should probably be a separate conversation,
Yeah.
because to have to move a pay date just seems like they're taking the easier path there. But I think there's solutions that can probably be had. I don't think we're going to solve them tonight, but
I told them they would need to, they said, or like, that's what I told them, me and Karen told them that. And, well, Karen did. And, cause she was not having it. And, they were like, oh, well, we can look for an exception. And so we're just waiting to hear back about that. I don't know what's gonna come back from that, so.
I mean, just if our payroll ends on a Friday, it sounds like, I don't know how that's done now, but it sounds like it should be more of a daily task. So then by the time Friday's here, it's pretty much already done, and it's just filling in Friday's data, if anyone should be missing data or a punch, so the manager should be checking their payroll daily. And I've worked with ADP for tons of years, and you can print a report of who has missed punches or who does what, and you can just send that out to the managers, and it's like, hey, fix your punches, make sure,
And I think the problem is, the first issue that we have right now is finding a way to implement a system like that within a place that has both salary and hourly employees as of right now. We just have to find a way to work that in. Do we do an online type of program? Do we have people put a program on their phone to download to punch in and out on? Do we have a manual punch in and out card? That's the first step, I think.
I think if you're gonna, my 2 cents, and we should probably have this as a separate agenda, is you go like a time and attendance solution. They can log in on their phone, they can log in on the computer, you do it manually for a time, clock in, clock out.
Right.
We're not the only person or place in the world that has hourly and salaried employees.
Yeah, no, I was the same. I've had previous places I've had that, but it comes down to, do employees want to do that? We have to get that approved through the union?
Yeah, I think we should have it offline, a separate conversation.
Well, I think it's not our job, it's the administrator's job, and I think we're overstepping. That's something that you
I
need.
believe that you are, but
Yeah.
it's a separate conversation.
Yeah.
I don't think you should be having it tonight.
I think
have
we
to
need
Well, we
Didn't
just
mean
need
to
to, we
overstep.
just need to save
I don't mean to
overtime.
overstep,
No,
but it
it's
does
not.
relate to the budget
But
overtime.
Council Hamilton's right. We actually, you know what, I'm going into what I don't want to go into. It's not on the agenda. So if you want to put it on the agenda, we can discuss it, because Anthony did talk with them last week. There was 3 representatives came in. We aired some of the issues that we thought how we would record, could record, and I really don't see it being a problem with the union, or that's just my opinion.
Yeah, I think it should be in case you need funds for the budget, then we can look at it.
Yeah, but we'll put it on another
Yeah.
agenda.
Discussion by council vote or other action on authorization of 2 councilors to meet with the city of Woonsocket to negotiate an updated water supply agreement. Solicitor Iglesias.
As the council may recall, we got notice from the city of Woonsocket had sent notice asking to start negotiating. The agreement is expired, the water agreement is expired, and I guess it was a 20-year agreement, or 10-year agreement. I lost track, but it expired last year, and it's time to renegotiate, and they want to meet. And I just said 2, because I assume council's not going to go and have a public meeting. You're going to want to have 2 people to go negotiate, and they come back and report to the council. So I think the team should be a council, and I assume somebody from the administration will be involved, probably somebody from the water department, but 2 council people need to lead the way in that conversation to meet with the council, the designated council people from Woonsocket. So they're asking, they're requesting, and I passed it on to you. I think that needs to be, and again, if they bring lawyers in at that, I'm happy to come, but I think the gist I got is they're looking to meet with the council to see if this is gonna be a meeting of the minds in an orderly fashion, and not,
So is this going to be like just a public meeting, or is it just going to be 2 councils meeting
I
2
think
councils?
I think it'd be 2 council people, private meeting with anybody else that you think should go, somebody from the water department perhaps, the administrator or somebody he designates, however you want to work that out, but I think, and then you can go meet the people in Woonsocket, and then, I think they're anticipating a private meeting. They're not anticipating that you go there and have a public meeting with them.
Okay.
I didn't hear anything about a joint public meeting. They just asked to send a negotiating team to them, and that has to be the council.
Okay.
Or at least some membership of it. So I think the council should designate 2 people, and then people can coordinate with the administrator, the water department. If I'm required, I'm happy to participate, but I don't know if we'll be that, where you'll be on that.
Okay. Council have any discussion on who would want to represent the town? I mean, I don't know what everyone's schedule's like, but
I can make myself available to meet with Woonsocket.
anyone else?
I've met with them before. I know everybody pretty well.
Mhm.
When are they looking to meet, David?
They didn't give it time. They didn't give it date time. They just, I put this on the docket to get this moving. None of the particulars have been sorted out. I think I forwarded you the email I got from
Yeah.
their representative, and I just didn't want it to stay lingering too long, because they have been very cooperative with us on the water line issue and other things, so I think also the 146 issue, so they're asking us to get a meeting. I think, we should use our best effort to get that meeting. Hopefully it'll be a positive one. I would think it would be, but.
For council, I certainly, as the administrator, would take part in negotiation, bring in water department as need basis. But I think that Councilman Beauregard, myself, and another member of council, I think it'd be a great representation.
Well, we don't even know where they're at, right? Like, we're not even, so the very first meeting would be like, how are you, what are you guys thinking? And we're thinking of whatever X amount of host fee, if not a whatever, and then we have to turn around, okay, see, that very first meeting would be like 10 minutes.
I don't know what will or will not. I think the first thing is, once you do this, then somebody can reach out, whether it's the administrator or one of the councilmen can reach out, coordinate a time where everybody can make. I noticed the VP's concerned about what time, because he's thinking.
Well, the only reason why I say that is because years ago, when we negotiated for the sewer, we knew going in that they wanted X amount of money for a host fee, so we knew where we stood right away going in. But we don't even know where we stand right now. We don't know what they're asking for or what, right? They never indicated anything?
No. They're asking to meet, to start the discussion, and, I don't know what their intentions are.
So I'm assuming these conversations take place, and then any conversation therefore after, at the council level, would be executive session, right?
Yes. Right, because it's.
Report backs and stuff?
Right.
I mean, depending if it's at night,
Yeah,
I
it can be
go, or
available in the
you can go,
evening, yeah.
whatever,
If it's in the, early evening, I can be available. During the day, it's a little tougher.
I think the city council faces the same challenges that our council, nighttime. They're professionals, have careers.
I mean, maybe we can reach out to them and see what dates they have and times, and then we can, would the administration reach out to them?
Yeah, I'll reach out to the mayor. I've got concerns of town council, scheduled town council meetings. We just have to be cognizant of special meetings that we run. They run the same thing, but they run workshops. We don't run workshops. So they hammer out a lot of their concerns and issues and opportunities.
Yeah, they put in a lot of hours, those guys.
No.
They meet like 2-3
So
times.
do you.
Sometimes.
Yeah, but they make a
They
little
make a
more.
lot more money, but they put it,
They put in their
twice a week.
time. Absolutely.
What I think about,
Yeah.
all right, so you want to get back to us with times and dates?
Yeah,
and
I'll
then we can
reach out to
figure
the mayor.
You and I can
Whatever,
figure it
yeah,
out,
okay. All right, next
You're
one
just gonna
is,
hold that off? You're not gonna,
I think he's,
well,
Paul's
the
gonna find
administrator's
out.
going to reach out and get
before you
some
make that
times and
decision?
dates, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll start the ball rolling, see what's
Yeah.
going on.
And we can always
Yeah.
switch off or whatever. Okay, the next item, not to move up, open forum. Open forum, agenda items only pursuant to 42-46-6D, maximum 3 minutes per person. Anyone like to speak? 3 minutes.
I spoke about it with MJ when she came back to her seat afterwards. What I was trying to ask is, or was going to suggest is, in the old days when the Woonsocket was a real paper and had 20 million, articles in it, and even minute stuff, the city of Woonsocket actually used to put a list of municipal liens that were placed against tangible properties. And that's an embarrassment to the business. So maybe that would motivate them to do that after like the second year of non-payment. The city of Woonsocket was doing, I don't know if the law's changed or not, but they used to
Good
literally,
try.
huh?
I don't know the answer.
Yeah.
That wasn't me.
So if that could be done, I don't know why we're not doing that after 2 years. I don't know if anybody else remembers reading those things in the paper, but I sure did.
Absolutely.
And it'd be an embarrassment to the business and the reputation in the community. So maybe that's a way of putting some force on them to pay up. Secondly, and they also can't sell the equipment with the municipal lien. If it's like a tractor, some type of heavy-duty thing, they can't sell it if the municipal lien's on it because they
They couldn't register the.
clear title.
Yeah.
So other than, that's what I wanted to suggest. And then the only other thing is, I was asking, when they were talking about, when Mr. Byron was talking about the money and what account it was in and everything, I was trying to envision that, and where's the audit? Is the audit done yet? Because I'd like to see how that was set up in the audit.
Did you file an
Huh?
Did you file an APRA?
For the audit?
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't get an answer yet, but is it done?
It's on, we're just waiting on the auditor.
Oh.
Yeah, the auditor she had to go up for sick leave.
Yeah, when do they have to be into the municipal affairs office by?
February 15th.
Okay, thanks. So, we're waiting for
All right. Anyone else want to get up and speak? Okay. All right, one more time. Anyone? All right, all set? All right, executive session. Do we want to extend first?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to extend the meeting to 10:30.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
A second.
Second. Roll call, please.
Mr. Beauregard?
Yes.
Ms. Hamilton?
Yes.
Mrs. O'Hara?
Yes.
Mr. Ogier?
Yes.
Ms. Alves?
Yes. Executive session, discussion by council vote or other action pursuant to Rhode Island General Law 42-46-5A5. Any discussions or considerations related to the acquisition or lease of real property for public purposes or of the disposition of publicly held property wherein advanced public information would be detrimental to the interests of the public. One, potential acquisition of land, and B, discussion by council vote or other action pursuant to Rhode Island General Law 42-46-5A2. Sessions pertaining to collective bargaining or litigation, or work sessions pertaining to collective bargaining or litigation or potential litigation. One, potential litigation.
I'll make a motion, we move into executive session.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Mr. Beauregard?
Here.
Ms. Hamilton?
Yes.
Yes.
Mrs. O'Hara?
Yes.
Mr. Ogier?
Yes.
Ms. Alves?
Yes. Paulette, right?
Back in the open.
And now when she's back in open session, motion to
Reconvene and
session.
to seal the minutes and let one vote was made.
And one vote was taken.
We good? I'll make a motion that we reconvene back into open session. Let the record reflect that one vote was taken and to seal the minutes.
So motion, is there a second?
Second?
Any discussion? Roll call?
Mr. Biragad.
Yes.
Ms. Hamilton.
Yes.
Ms. O'Hara.
Yes.
Mr. Ogier.
Yes.
Ms. House.
Yes.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Woohoo.
Great job, Tammy. You really-